Well, hey, happy Friday evening, everybody. Welcome to the workshop. And not in the studio for the Athearn Extras. We want to work on our trains. We want to talk about all the new exciting stuff at Athearn and what's on the workbench and what's on the layout. And you know what? Let's do what we do on Train Tuesdays. Let's see who's out there joining us. Hopefully, we've got you on in the workshop out there. We've got Joel, Glenn, Darren, Zach, Taylor, Randall, Eugene, Idaho Rail Fan, David, Kyle, Eric, got Zach. A lot of names out there that I recognize. So glad you guys could come on board. Hey, you know what? We've got an exciting episode tonight. We're going to be talking about GP18s, GP50s. We might even be talking about some Maxi 1 cars and let's just say a certain orange freight company. Let's see what happens there. But I'm going to have some special guests with us tonight. We'll talk a little bit more about them and see what everybody's working on. And then we'll talk about going down memory lane with GP50s and GP18s. So one more shout out here. Let's see who else we've got joining us out there. We've got Mr. Derek Glass, Kyle, Randall, Daniel, Eric, Jack, Ronald, Ryan, George, a lot of Ryans out there, Gary, and Joseph, Michael, Aaron, Kyle, Victor, and Harold. So great group of guys out here tonight. So hey, let's do what we do. I've already set down my hobby knife, and I'm in a comfortable workbench, and I've got a beverage of my choice. So let's get started. Let's see what's going on in the Athearn Extra. So my first guest tonight is a man who needs no introductions, Mr. Tony Cook. He was here last month. We are happy to have him on board again. He's going to be sharing some stuff with us. Let's add Tony.
Hey, good evening, everybody. How you doing, Jim?
I'm doing well. How about yourself, Tony?
I don't think I've got a project I'm working on. I know I'm supposed to, but yeah,
I mean, that workbench looks pretty full.
It does, but it's probably stuff I've unboxed, or I'm not really working on things per se. In fact, I think the workbench has some old 1950s hobby line stuff I'm working on for HO Collector. So yeah, cleaning up, making sure that things aren't all broken or how best we can make them look. So super vintage stuff. Trains older than me.
Well, there you go.
There really are some, yeah.
So Tony, for anybody who's been under a rock for the last 20 years, let us know who you are, what you write for, and what you do.
My name is Tony Cook. I live north of Kansas City, Missouri, and I have been the editor of Model Railroad News magazine, monthly all-scale news and reviews for model train stuff. I've been doing that since 2011, over 10 years. Wow. For White River Productions, and then I'm in the 6th year now of HO Collector Quarterly, which it is exactly what it sounds like. The 68 pages 4 times a year of old HO stuff. And then DeSolera is the newest one. I'm managing editor of it, and it's a quarterly as well. And we've talked, I think our last show, we talked SD45-2s, and I shared some things that I was working on for DeSolera. So that's kind of the hobby for me. Yeah, that would be on my workbench. I don't need an X-Acto knife or super glue to. Although some issues, it can be like, boy, if I had a little super glue to get this together a little better. But no, yeah, mostly it's all digital.
It's all digital now.
Yeah.
That's the great thing about, our hobby. We are firmly in the 21st century, and we've got so many great things to appreciate now. Boy, model railroading in the last 20 years has come so far, and it just keeps getting better. And I want to thank you for coming on board. And of course, what you maybe didn't mention is you are also on a lot of live streams, and you're also on a podcast occasionally too, aren't you?
Yes, yeah. Modeler's Life, modelerslife.com with Lionel Strang. That yes, I do make regular appearances on there sometimes, and that is if you have projects you're working on, or you commute back and forth someplace, or if you're one of those people that exercises and you need something to listen to while you're walking or jogging, then I feel sorry for you if you do. But I get it. Some people do that. you can listen to the podcast, and that's modelerslife.com. You can find out more there. And the magazine's shop.whiteriverproductions.com. And we've got Facebook pages for all those. And you and I are back and forth sharing things between the Athearn and the magazines. And
definitely. That is so true. Now, one disclaimer I want to tell everybody out there, for anybody that's ever joined the show before, you may know this, but for the new guys out there, I like to say we're coming to you live from an abandoned farmhouse in the middle of East Central Illinois. So with that being said, Tony sometimes has to do duties for me because the internet out here is sketchy at best. So we will cross our fingers that the rural internet holds up and you don't see me do a disappearing act or anything of that nature. Now, Tony, one thing that I wanted to, a lot of us know we're kind of Trekkies. We're into Trek.
You've heard the news this week. The movie news?
I have not. I'm ashamed to say it.
I thought I sent you that. Maybe I sent it to my brother. I might have sent him the link to that. The Chris Pine, that cast, there's going to be another movie. I don't know if J.J. Abrams is involved. But yeah, and we've talked that before. I like those movies. I felt like they were, a little underappreciated. Again, it's not the classic Shatner cast and everything, but that new group of films I always liked and wish they'd done more. And I saw that in a post for something this week that there will be another of the whatever that Star Trek is. So yeah.
So what if I told you that I have a Star Trek railroad connection?
Star Trek railroad connection. I'm baffled here. What is it?
Okay, and anybody in the audience that's a historical society member of the Boston and Maine, you cannot say anything. But in their latest newsletter, they are researching to see if this is true or not. But Majel Barrett, who was, of course, Nurse Chapel in my favorite series. Later, she was Deanna Troy's mother, and she was also the computer.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so Guilford Rail thought they needed a voice for their defect detectors.
Oh,
and rumor has it they contacted her.
Really?
And there's some ongoing research now. No shade meant to be cast to those friends out there that model with Guilford, but I always wondered if Guilford used her voice and the defect detector. Do you think it sounded like the Next Generation when there was a problem that alert sound saying, "Warning, train number 381 is now derailed"?
Wow, that and that would be the voice to get. Yeah, I mean, there's a handful of like classic voices you think of, and yeah, hers for that. That would be awesome. Although if I was in the locomotive and heard that, I'd be looking to turn down my TV. Like, what, what? Yeah.
So apparently it's an ongoing investigation, if you will. But I thought it was kind of interesting since both of us are kind of Trekkies, and so yeah, interesting trivia for you folks out there on a Friday night. It looks like we got a few Trekkies out there. Nothing wrong with that. And what have you been working on besides the magazine, Tony? Anything model railroaded that isn't directly work related?
I'm trying to think now what stuff I have been working on. I've been tinkering around with the old Roundhouse box cab diesel because it's 50 years old this year. Or is it? Yeah, 50. 1972 is its introduction. And I've got a couple of samples of it, and I'm trying to get it kind of in pieces and such for presentation because of the drive it had and that kind of thing. It's like you guys have not, that's never come back. And I've talked with various folks at Athearn over the years about it because I get requests asking like, hey, what? Yeah, and it had a plastic shell, but the drive and everything it'd need its own trucks, and so there'd be a lot of work to it. And again, it's prototypes only central in New Jersey. There's one, even though it's kind of one of those. There's tons of different road. There's even Ford. There's a Ford one of those. Have you seen? You've seen the Ford?
Oh,
silver. I think
I'll have to take a look at that.
Let's see if I'm working on it. I think I'm working on that one. Yeah. I have it, yeah.
Oh, check that out. Oh, very cool.
And again, it's not real. There was no
Ford
like that, but cool, yeah. So I have been tinkering with those, trying to get them to run, and I got a couple of different samples that we're looking at a cover story for HO Collect. So again, it is magazine, but that is what my hobby is,
Oh yeah. No, I know you're always posting on Facebook and the AML page, and there's so much that you're working on it all the time, and
Fun stuff. Yeah.
fun stuff. So I've got another guest with us tonight. Looks like he's about settled in now. If you guys are new to the program, you may have not seen any of his work, but James Portugal is someone that does a really cool YouTube channel. You should check it out. It's called Hybrid Hobbies. And he's done some reviews. I wanted him to come on tonight because he is, well, you know what? Let's just bring him on board and wait till you see where he's at. I think it's going to fit. So I hope you guys are into some model railroad action. James, how are you?
Hey guys, how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Tony, good to see you.
Good to see you. Hey, you don't need that hat. You're in California.
Yeah.
I'm here. It got a little cold.
These people, I'll hear this from people at Lionel Strand, will be down in Florida. Oh, it's cold. But it got down to like 60. And it's like,
So James, welcome aboard tonight. Thanks for coming on board. For those that are not familiar with you and your YouTube channel, tell us a little bit about it and when you started and all the details aligned with it.
Yeah, so I have a YouTube channel, Hybrid Hobby. I started a few years back, and I initially started with train simulator content and slowly moved into model railroading content. I've been a member at this actual location I'm at right now, the California Southern Model Railroad Club, for many years. And we're just running down here, and I'm like, you know what, I got to capture this. This is gold. So yeah, just started filming our trains, running here and uploading it, and slowly but surely kind of making an episodic event of everything. And here we are today, basically.
Nice. Now, you've been in the hobby for quite a few years, right?
Yes, absolutely. I was in the hobby when I was younger. Took a break, kind of like sounds like a majority of the guests during high school a little bit, and got back into it in college and just hit it full steam, basically. And I'd say I've been modeling hardcore here probably for about 15 years now, I'd say. Yeah.
Now, do you have a home layout, or are you just active with the club?
My home layout is more of a test layout. I got a 4x8 double loop, just kind of mostly test things, break things in, make sure DCC installs are working. Mostly all my running's done here down at the club, so I spend a lot of time down here. We usually kind of get together Saturday nights, sometimes Wednesday nights, and yeah, we just run, have a nice time, and have fun, and get some food. There's always food involved. Yep.
Very nice.
So sometimes if I come down for the trains or the food sometimes. So
yeah, well, that's always, that would definitely motivate a lot of people, I think. So James, tell us about your passion. What are the roads that you love to model the most, or you've got the most info on?
Well, I've grown up in the Los Angeles area, so majority of my modeling does represent Southwest railroads. I worked at Amtrak for a few years, so that's one of my main roads I model is Amtrak. I was in ticketing and reservations for a few years, so I got a lot of inside scoop. And so Amtrak's definitely my main road. BNSF, Southern Pacific. I've been getting more into some of the Midwest roads lately. Chicago Northwestern, Burlington Northern. And yeah, going from there. I haven't really got into East Coast stuff yet. Know a lot of history about it, but as far as modeling perspective, generally Southwest of the United States.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's great. That's great to hear. So, James, this is your first time on the show, and basically what we do is we're going to talk about a couple of different locomotives tonight. We're going to start in the 1980s. In fact, we're going to start in 1980, and we're going to talk about what was supposed to replace the GP40-2 and the GP38-2, the GP50. So, Tony, I'm going to start with you, just with a couple of questions, and we'll go get some questions with James, and then I know we've got some pictures to show our audience. Tony, do you have any fond memories of the old EMD GP50? We don't hear much about them.
It is kind of and as you say, the big deal about it was after all the success EMD had being such a leader, that whole 50-60 series just didn't do what we saw from like the 30, 35, 40s and those. What I remember most about the 50s was the precursor, those cool Jeep 40Xs, which you guys do in the Ready to Roll series. I remember seeing those on the Union Pacific when they were brand new, and they had those cool UP got the ones with those, is it HTC? What are those odd truck side frames? And
Okay.
they had, of course, their flared radiator, which was cool. Almost everybody's that got the test bed had something different. Southern got some high hoods. SP got the cool ones with the elephant ears. But I think I have basically a whole like blue tub of Athearn ready to roll Jeep 40X models in various paint schemes, styles, because it's such a cool model. So yeah, that's when I think of 50s, I immediately go to, yeah, those 40Xs. But the 50, I remember the blue boxes of those coming out and painting and doing a lot of those when they were new, about 1990-ish. But didn't really see tons of them. Mopac had some, I believe, BN around here, but yeah, for the most part, again, kind of how an EMD was the thing that was everywhere. The 50s were not as much, and so yeah, you just didn't see as many of them.
Now, the GP50s, they lasted into the early BNSF era. James, did you ever get to see any of those on the BNSF?
Yes, absolutely. I was going to bring that up as well. As my fondest memory with the GP50s is seeing them over here on the Transcon running locals. I grew up in the city of La Mirada specifically, and so we have part of the Transcon that comes through there, and there's a local job that switches right there in a small yard. So it was really common to see those late 90s, early 2000s around here. And so when I saw that you guys were bringing them out this month, it really brought back a lot of memories.
Yeah, I vaguely remember them as, of course, I was very young in 1980. But the interesting thing about the GP50 is it was one of the first microprocessor controlled locomotives. One of the things that modern crews that are on modern locomotives probably take for granted is, wheel slip. The computer would actually monitor wheel slip, which before that, the old hands had to monitor that themselves manually. That was a big deal in 1980. And the microprocessor, of course, in the locomotive itself was a big deal. And, now it's kind of passe. We see it in locomotives all the time. Now, Tony, before we get started, I know you had shared some pictures with me. Let me see if I can get those pictures up. We can start out with some Santa Fe pictures. And these come from the Kevin Udaly collection, correct?
Yes, they do.
All right. Let me bring up the Santa Fe pictures. And, there wasn't a lot of original customers for these either, were there, Tony?
I mean, not when I think about it, like for Western roads, and I get confused sometimes thinking of the 60s too, because I think like what Cotton Belt SP maybe gets some 60s, and then actually there was the wide nose 60Ms. But yeah, the 50 in general, like west of the Mississippi, Santa Fe had them, like Chicago Northwestern BN. That's a Kevin Udaly shot from 1981, so that would have been pretty much brand new. That's in Argentine, Kansas, which is here in the Kansas City area. And that's pretty much as delivered. This is Santa Fe as far as air conditioners, the rooftop beacon, the plate back there with the antenna. A lot of that was retrofitted onto things a little bit before this time. But I think this is how they went into service. So this would be the first time you had all that extra stuff piled up on top. They're self-contained unit. I remember when they were brand new, I thought at a glance, it's a Jeep 40, right? The 350.
Yeah.
Like, wait a minute, but the radiator section, the louvers are bigger, and but yeah, they're one of the last, I guess, with like the class lights and all that. We start to lose.
That's right.
In about 10 years, yeah.
Nice picture here.
That's another Kevin shot from February of '83. That's heading southwest out of Kansas City.
Nice.
Oh, hey, here's a shot we don't always get to see.
There you go. Yeah, the detail shots. Quiet fans in back again was a new thing at the time. The dynamic brake doesn't, but the radiators have the quiet fans. And yeah, Santa Fe with you see the piping or conduit going from the cab back to the plate where that skate antenna is, and the exhaust silencer, which is kind of hard to see. You see the silver on that side. That it's generally, I think those were and were not painted, and those were fairly new. The SDP-40F, the Amtrak units, had some of the very first, about 5 years before these 40 Jeep 50s came out. So that exhaust silencer was a fairly new feature from EMD.
I think
But
some
yeah.
of the Grand Jeep40s had those too.
Yes, yeah, the late, by the time, well, and that's the other odd thing, because railroads kept, we know you got the 50, but do you still have any Jeep40s around? Or in the 40 which the 40-2 when it first came out, like Chessie buys a bunch, but it was not a tremendous seller. But then again, it kind of comes back to roads are still asking for them. So I think EMD ended up kind of maybe not to their plan, but building 40-2 and 38-2s into like the mid to almost late 80s for various roads, that this probably was more what they had intended to move to and didn't happen.
Yeah, no, this is a great shot, especially for, somebody that orders the Santa Fe. I mean, you're looking at 1981, so it's not that old, but you already got some weathering to do here on this particular unit. It's weathering really nice. All right.
Yeah, that yellow got dirty quick.
Yes, it did. This is a beautiful shot.
Oh.
And that
1986.
World famous, Sullivan's Curve. That's out your way someplace, James. And I think those are like beer cars there at the head end of the train.
Definitely shot that shot before.
And there's one of the second unit is a 40X. See the flared, and then the next two, so 350s and a 40X, and all would have been pretty much brand new.
Another nice shot. This is a really nice angle, nice shot, nice lighting. I'll zoom in on our lead unit here. Now this one here, according to Kevin's collection, this is in 1995, July 1995.
Yeah, and a little modification there. They've cut, as Santa Fe started doing, the class lights are patched. They've plated over the upper headlight, cut a light in the nose, ditch lights on it, which would have been fairly new. And that's one of the later SD45-2s. You can see by that kind of extended, the radiator grill section there is a little different looking. So that was that third short order of those. Then, of course, the awesome 60Bs and 60Ms, which you guys do in Ready to Roll. And they've been around long enough there. They're getting a little grungy looking almost.
Yeah.
They'd only been a few years old.
That's right. Yeah, and it wouldn't be long. I mean, this is July 1995, so it's not going to be long before that changes its name.
The orange is on the horizon.
Yeah, the pumpkins are coming. Here's a cool picture. This is going back. I don't have a date on this one, but nice clear shot. And again, you can see. I'm going to say this is its early 1980s, based on the configuration.
I would guess so. Yeah, it's a Warren Sunkel shot from Kevin's collection. In nice beautiful black and white.
Yeah, no, it's so sharp. With the
and there's something about detail. I had Paul Withers, the guy who founded Diesel Era, and he does rail news for us still, and I'm in contact with him a lot. He said that to me, make sure you keep some black and white pictures in Diesel Era because they're so good for the detail. And at first I was kind of like, oh yeah. And then as you start looking, it's like, yeah, it is. There's something about once you remove the color that your eyes maybe do focus more on all the little things here and there. So they are good for modeling to look for some black and white shots.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. That's impressive. Now this is 1985, April of 85. And wow, this thing looks pristine.
Yeah.
There's Athearn Genesis boxes laying just over to the side.
That's what I was thinking.
So this is on James's club layout.
And the ballast is brand new. There's probably, if you touch that, there'd be white glue you'd get on your hands.
I see some matte medium right about here.
There you go. Yeah, not finished. Yeah, getting close. And look, he's not put any grass down here at the right. Got the signals in already, which I'm impressed.
Look at the signals, the signals are in. They look brand new.
Not bad. That's
not bad on the modeling of the employee either. That's
and he's got a crew figure.
Oh, there you go. Look at that.
Yeah,
in motion too.
That's pretty good. Now,
Florence, Colorado, so that's on the joint line, like between Denver and Pueblo.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's Tony and James, you can probably substantiate this, but I had heard that Santa Fe, especially in their passenger era, they were very much sticklers on keeping their equipment clean.
Absolutely.
That's true, isn't it, James?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, that looks like it just came out of came out of the factory. That's amazing.
They had a lot of pride in their passengers.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
they definitely
And
did.
it seems odd to see a 4-axle on coal, but it seems like I remembered, and again, you mentioned early on the wheel slip thing.
Mhm.
That, again, you think coal train, you think big 6-axle drag unit,
Right.
but there's a set of 3 4-axles, and again, whether it's the wheel slip being looked at or tested because it was new, but that at first seems odd to me to see what I would think is high horsepower, like piggyback power on what would be a coal train, but that might be why it's there. Yeah.
Another nice clean picture. You got some EMD demonstrators, it looks like, back there too, but this is a cool angle. Now, I'm going to guess, and you probably know the answer to this, Tony, because of this barrier here, that this was a display somewhere.
That I think is, and I'm trying to think of the town. It was like south of Topeka. There's a railroad days that happens like maybe in Osage or Osage City. I've been out to it before, and I think this was a display in the mid 90s. So it's around Topeka, Kansas, basically. And yeah, those 60s would have been brand new. And those are the odd duck ones with the rounded cab profile. They ended up on Southern Pacific, but EMD did a handful of those. That you guys just did that. I love that scheme. You did that as a roundhouse, and we reviewed it a month or two ago in Model Railroad News. That it's one of those with the NCE decoder in it.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
An awesome piece. That it's either that or those are so cool looking. The Santa Fe had to put that up because guys would go to shoot pictures and couldn't help themselves when to climb up on the locomotive. So they probably made the crews put the stay away tape, between the handrails.
Yeah, there you go. So there's our Santa Fe. We've got more to share. And by the way, thanks, Tony, for sharing these with everybody. Now, I'm going to be 100% honest with everybody. We're gonna go with one of my favorite railroads. I have a soft spot, and the longer it's been, the more I miss it. It's like that old song from my era. You don't know what you got till it's gone. We're going to talk a little bit about Cascade Green, and this is actually one of the releases that we're doing. Let me go ahead and share my screen. There we are. Here's a cool shot. Now this says, this is kind of my stomping grounds. Rochelle, Illinois, back in February of 1989. It's Lance Wales, part of the Kevin U. Daly collection. But here's the thing that a lot of you guys out there watching this, if you're BN fans, you heard rumors about the GP50 coming back. You requested this with those tiger stripes, and I do remember those. Tony, how about you?
Oh, definitely. That kind of, being such a classic scheme from when they introduced it in 1970 on, and then they started tinkering with it with the tiger stripes. You start to get the white faces, they called it, and then the larger, that big BN on things. So yeah, this was one of the first of that kind of tinkering with their classic scheme. And yeah, the tiger stripe, I assume, of course, was done for visibility to add that orange, but somehow it did work and look good with the green and white.
Yeah, it really did. And you're right. It was for, BN tried a couple of different paint schemes, and they even did a flashing strobe later in their SD60Ms for, grade crossing. They had some incidents, unfortunately, in the Chicago metro area, and as well as other places. And so they were constantly trying to find a scheme that would, show up really, really easily. Now, Manny, did you ever get to see this in the early days of the BNSF merger? Did you get to see some of the tiger stripes on some of the equipment?
Unfortunately, I did not.
Oh, man.
I did not ever see any tiger stripe in person. And it's one paint scheme that I really wish I could have, because that orange and black, it almost reminds me of an early BNSF look almost.
Yeah.
With
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah,
thought
now
of
you
that.
mention it.
Yeah, it does.
almost, a sign of things to come. But with this recent release, I was doing a lot of research on the tiger stripes, and that's what I initially kind of got. I was like, this kind of reminds me of something like an early BNSF, especially with that orange.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And
Yeah.
they experimented. They did the orange and black, like you see here on 3127. They also did it in orange and white.
Mhm.
They weren't afraid to try different painting techniques to help with the visibility. But in the end, the rail fans liked it. They called it the tiger stripes.
Mhm.
And it's funny we started with Rochelle because that's the first place I ever saw a tiger stripe was in Rochelle, Illinois. So this one's in Denver, Colorado, May of 1986. 3127, looking really good with that orange and black tiger stripes that we were talking about.
And I forget, in this coming release, is there regular scheme, tiger stripe? I remember digging these pictures up at one time or another, but I forget now what's actually in the release. What's coming
Yeah,
for these?
we're going to
Tiger?
do both the orange and black and the white and orange tiger stripes.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, it's one of the ones that we had a lot of requests for. People really like this paint scheme.
Mhm.
3128 again with the orange and black. This looks like it's not too far from your area, Tony. It's in Kansas City, Missouri.
Murray Yard, yeah, just north of downtown.
Now
And
check this out. You know
yeah,
what? It's
yeah.
funny when you look at these on the big screen, you notice things. Check this out.
Fuel tender.
I think
Yeah,
haven't you done those? There's some tank cars that 62-foot or something. I think in the ready to roll line.
ready to roll line. Yeah,
Those, yeah.
yeah. It's been a little bit.
And
Yeah,
a pair of these GP50s will go perfect with them.
there you go.
I have one waiting, and I'm like, you know what? I think I need a pair of these for this.
Beautiful shot.
Oh, nice.
Beautiful. Look at that. Beautiful
Is that
scenery.
Montana?
This is in Idaho. This says it's in looks like Belton, Idaho, 1989. Growing up in little old New Hampshire, little tiny sliver of the state, this is what I thought of when I saw Burlington Northern as a kid. This is what I thought of was the big, the old big blue sky country. And this is, to me, this is a BN shot. This is almost like a corporate picture right here.
That is a good picture, yeah.
Beautiful shot.
Oh, here we go. Now this is cool. This is 1988, and I don't see a location on this one, Tony. Does it look familiar?
No, I think it's a Roger B picture in Kevin's collection, and we didn't have information on where it's at.
Okay.
And that's a later 50 with the blower on the side behind the cab. You see that
Yep,
angled
right here. And check out the trailers.
Nice, yeah.
Very cool. This is 1988. Here we are working in, looks like Oklahoma.
Tiger, Oklahoma. That's
Tiger, Oklahoma.
I had to pull that picture out of the collection because it's like, oh, there's a tiger in Tiger. Yeah.
There you go. Definitely appropriate.
And see there, the class lights were patched over on that one too.
Well, let's go back to that. Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You can just make them out here.
And that's 89, so that would have had to have been early days of starting to do some of that, I would think.
Yeah, not quite to the ditch light era, but definitely no more class lights. Here's another one with a fuel tender.
Yeah.
That's a neat set. Yeah, 3 with a fuel tender spliced in there. Yeah, that's very neat looking.
1985.
I always like that big, when they adopted that large BN and the larger Burlington Northern, it just had such a toy train look to it. Because again, it's like,
Right.
oh, those are like O-gauge decals on an HO model.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, because that BN, the
was
stylized
huge.
logo. Yeah, look at how large that was. Yeah, I always liked that too. I always thought it was cool. And that logo goes back to the late 60s when they started designing it. They actually experimented on a CB&Q GP40 and a Cascade Green version of what would be the corporate paint scheme.
Oh, wow.
And it was nice, but it was a little subdued. They had the BN on the cab, and by now they, like you said, Tony, they're putting it on the side, and it, yeah, visibility wise, all the way around, it was just a neat looking logo.
I'd love to know more about that. It was Lippincott and Margulies. They were in New York,
That's
I
right.
think, ad firm, and they did like the multi-mark for CP Rail. I think they did the Pointless Arrow for Amtrak. They did Big Sky Blue for GN. They did BN. Basically, all those kind of blocky, modern 60s logos all came basically every time I do any research, like, oh, they did that one too. So that would be fun to know more about. There must have been some major rail fan that worked there that got to do all these crazy logos that ended up being real.
Now, that brings up a good point, because I was actually doing some research on that firm I was reading one of Jim Boyd's books on the early Burlington Northern, and you might know the answer to this, but I had heard a rumor that when Burlington Northern was first going to be formed, that Cascade Green was not the first color. It was actually going to be the Great Northern Blue.
Oh, wow.
I
But
think, yeah, I've heard both were, because they're both about the same. It's 66 or 7 for Burlington changes to that, what becomes the green. But I think both might have been in the running for the official corporate look. I've heard that's one of the reasons why a lot of the Great Northern units had the plate on the stanchions of the handrails with the Great Northern, because you just take that off and then letter the unit Burlington Northern. Or it had some ridiculous name at first. It was like Great Northern Pacific and Burlington. It was like the gross national product and something was the joke at the time. So again, I think the Big Sky part of that idea was, we'll just pull the plates off the handrails and then letter the units.
That
and
makes
everything
sense.
was done,
That definitely makes sense. This is 1987 out of Highlands, Illinois, not a couple hours north of where I'm at right now. And yeah, look at I bet you this is gone. I bet you this signal tower is long gone.
Yeah, I would think so. The depot might still be there, because I assume that's probably the commuter stuff out of Chicago.
Yeah.
That racetrack of the 3 and 4 lines that run, heading out west.
That's right.
Great rail fanning stuff.
Oh, this is beautiful. Now, this is in Randall, Minnesota, 1987. Boy, I mean, that is just, with the exception of the trucks and the fuel tank, these are in really clean shape. I'm looking, this 87. Yeah, I guess we still have class lights.
And IPD boxcars everywhere. There's
yeah,
box and maybe Frisco next, and a BN, and that was that TO&E had those blue cars with the stripes.
I think so.
Yeah.
Another fuel tender.
Wow.
Oh, cool.
There you go, James. Now that would be a stack train, 2 of those running elephant style with the fuel tender. That's an awesome setup.
That's neat. Aurora, Illinois, 1986.
And early stacks too for both that year, and
That's
they had the porch, or the first stacks had the.
That's right.
As if they would slide and go someplace. Yeah.
Yep.
So
now, what's cool is, and that's a good segue, Tony, is we're going to talk about those Maxi ones, which were the direct descendants of these guys.
Oh.
And yeah, it's funny. This is, like you said, the early days of real containers, and they were so afraid that the locking mechanisms on the containers was still not enough. They built these bulkheads. Here we are in Toluca. I know a Toluca, and I've rail fanned a Toluca, but that's in Illinois. This is Montana.
Okay. Looks like maybe wood chip. Those big wood chip.
That's what I was thinking. Let's zoom in a little bit and see.
And that's
kind of look like it.
Wow, yeah.
Interesting lash up there too. So that's the end of the BN stuff. Let me see if I can find the next one on the list. So, James, you probably remember the early days of the BNSF, right?
Definitely.
What as they were starting to patch things and such, did you see a lot of Cascade Green, or was it mainly limited to the Santa Fe colors?
There was a Cascade Green unit every now and then. I'd see a lot of SD40-2s sandwiched in container trains. See that every now and then. I think I've said this before, but I actually had a summer camp right next to the tracks, so I was able to by. And so it was really cool seeing the evolution, because I went there for a few years in a row, and it started in 95, and I think the last year was 97. So seeing the railroad change, and watch it progress and see the different power coming through was really interesting. And we definitely did get some Cascade Green down here in LA.
That's cool. Well, I'm going to show some BNSF stuff that Tony brought us, and we'll go ahead and start off with 3174, a basic patch job, and 1999 Flagstaff, Arizona. And boy, that reminds me of the early days of BNSF right there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some interesting spotting features. Santa Fe has moved the headlight down to the nose. It's got obviously ditch lights now, and you've got the original lights have been patched over. The strobe light is long gone. And the thing that modeling BNSF, that's always fun. I think Microscale makes some great decals for this. Is you've got this yellow, or if you had a Cascade Green locomotive, you had this green patch with the numbers in it. And it was just kind of an interesting modeling thing, something to geek out about.
Well, that was cool in the blue box era, is taking some of your Santa Fe models and putting the BNSF patches on them.
Yeah, definitely. It was an easy thing, but it was, it made it, I don't know. It just,
made it pop. Yeah.
Yep.
Here's 3174, Fort Worth, Texas, and Jim Boyd. Yeah, there's a name we all know.
Wriggle that cord for me.
And that's an early 50, because you see the dynamics it's got the rounded blower behind the cab, and then doesn't have the longer extended dynamics. So that would have been like the original blue box. And I think you guys, is this on, I meant to look at that. I forget what all's in this G50 run, but I know you've done different phases, and
we have
stepwell difference too. If you look at the pilot there, it's got an area for the guy to stand on the lower step. It's kind of nice.
Yeah, for both the Santa Fe and the BNSF, we're doing a phase 1 to phase 2. Subtle differences, and we can bring that up here in a little bit, just kind of go through them. But yeah, you're right. This is definitely an early GP50 with those spotting features you're talking about. And this is, let's see, I did not see a date on this, but look at we've got our ditch lights, and we've also got nice patch right here of the classification lights. The removal of the original light kind of looks like some of my early Kit Bash era stuff there.
Little squadron putties coming back through your yellow there. Yeah. That happens. Yeah.
Here we are with 3180. Now here's one of those locomotives that's begging to be modeled. Can anybody tell me why somebody should model this?
I would say just because the amount of dirt and grime on it.
Well, the one thing that I always hated doing was the small decals. Look at the B.
Oh, look at that. Okay.
And in the real world, I mean, they want these things on the road. They're not here for a beauty show.
And how many times that happened to yourself applying decals when something?
Exactly, yeah.
That's too much microsol or whatever. I put something that was too strong and it started to eat that corner of the decal. That's the best I could get it to lay down.
Yeah. I mean, I love it because it's kind of off to the angle there anyways. And then since you've got it on the battery door box, it doesn't line up. That after that first time, it probably lined up. And after that, it's just kind of, somewhere in that ballpark. But that's just begging to be modeled so you can have your fellow, rail fans say, that's not right. Well, here's the pictures to prove it.
Some interesting power there, too. If you look behind it, that's and this is in Kansas City. that's a Susquehanna SD up front, and then
Yeah.
this is a somebody that's what is that, James? VMV. That's one of the leasers there. That
Oh,
red,
okay. Now I see what
I'm guessing probably both those are maybe XSD45s.
Now it's back
It
there.
still has their reporting marks on it, but yeah, I'd almost think both those are in lease service of some kind, because we certainly Susquehanna didn't get to Kansas City. Yeah,
No,
Yeah, a little far there.
a little far. Yeah,
it's a long walk for Susie Q.
yeah.
Here's another good example, 3187. Look at that battery door box. You know,
Yeah.
the BN, not too bad on this one, but good weathering on this, subtle. But you can see how that yellow, you know, between the western sun and even some of the Midwest sun, that just bleaches out almost like a real light yellow.
Mhm.
I think that's the end of the BNSF. We've got a few more slides to show you, and here's one that's close to home for me, and that's the Chicago Northwestern. In fact, I've got a Chicago Northwestern here on my workbench behind me. Let's get this up so you guys can see it.
This is a neat road. You know, James, you'd mentioned that early on, that it was a Midwestern road that's been kind of hitting you. But yeah, Northwestern and Milwaukee, they're big dogs in these Granger roads as far as having just a massive fan base. I think I've heard Northwestern or Milwaukee, one of the two, has the largest historical society.
Oh wow,
Hmm.
interesting.
Yeah, no, it's definitely. I'm glad I got a chance to rail fan it before it was gone. Early days of going to Rochelle, but here's 5068. This is Proviso, Illinois. And I don't see a date on this one, Tony, but it doesn't look, to me anyways, too long ago.
September 86, Chuck Fry
There we
picture.
go.
So yeah, it would have been fairly new there. The
Yeah.
gong bell in the nose is Northwestern did, and the winterization.
Mhm.
Yeah, both kind of signature for their 50s, yeah. And before the yellow, that's original yellow. Now this is later yellow. And the yellow's all got between fading and being played around with.
Right. Yeah. I know there's some fans of the Zito yellow and some that are not. This one here, 5050. This is in March of 1989. This is in Chicago. It's in really good shape there. Interesting. I think somebody tried to clean that area with their sleeve or something. Another shot of 5050. Simple but classy paint scheme.
I agree. Yeah, it had a really nice look, especially when it was clean before it faded and such. But I remember seeing a lot of these in early stack train days, like in Nebraska on the UP, and they all kind of stood out with that bell in the nose and such.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, in the early days of the UP repaints, if one went through Rochelle and had that gong bell, there was no doubt of the lineage of that locomotive.
Very unique feature.
So yeah, this is another picture of 5050. This is in this is going back. This is when this unit was new. This is September 1980.
Yeah.
So it's brand new there.
Seems interesting. The beacon, I think it's a Western style gumball machine beacon. They call it. All seems like it's sitting too far back, but
yeah, it does actually.
Yeah.
Nice side shot of 5050.
That's one nice thing on these Genesis units, and I can never really see it in the real ones, but here I think if you zoom in, you can see the sanders around the trucks.
Oh yeah.
Which are like the GP38-2 in the Genesis line, the 50s were the first ones to kind of bring that feature in. And I remember thinking how odd they looked seeing the models of them. And then you start noticing it all the time on the prototypes more.
Right.
Like, oh, yeah, I guess they were always there. I just didn't pay that much attention to them. But yeah, that kind of shows that off.
I do have to say that is a cool thing about the Genesis models, is seeing some details that you weren't familiar with. You're like, wow, the prototype has this?
Yeah, that's true. You know, it's one of those things where I think sometimes as modelers we get so focused on the model that we forget what the prototype has, and then you know, some, like you're saying, you get these Genesis units and you're like, oh, okay. Now, if those are missing, it's painlessly
notice it,
obvious to us. Yeah.
Yep.
And I don't know why it was, if it was a Northwestern thing, but see, I think there's a shovel and a broom stuck under the grab on the nose.
Yeah.
That to me is almost a prerequisite if you're a Northwestern modeler, that you got to have those on the front of. I don't know why, and I don't see it on CSX or UP or SP or others. But man, the Northwestern guys, they always had a broom and a shovel ready to go. So serious railroading.
Yeah. Cleaning up those frozen switch points outside of Chicago, no doubt.
Yeah.
Probably so, yeah.
1985, still in relatively good shape, 54. Really nice.
Oh.
Now here's an interesting study in weathering. That is take some notes on that.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like the nose is back to, when you say the nose is back to rust and metal there, isn't it, James? But I'd almost say that's dirt on the long hood and the battery boxes.
Yeah, looks like dirt. That thing's grimy.
That's grime.
Sure
But yeah,
is.
the nose, I think that paint's back to raw metal.
Kind of looks like it.
Yeah, very neat. Which I can't do. I see this, and I can't do for two reasons. I can't do it because, oh my God, no. It's like, really, you've just destroyed that $300 model. Go sit down. But the other thing too is, get them out of the box. And I mean, I know guys that do a fantastic job. Ralph Renzetti is one. He's basically an artist at doing weathering.
Mm-hmm.
And I see it and it's fantastic. But man, I get one of these and it's like the collector in me is like, no, get it back in the box before you knock anything off of it. And no, we're not weathering it. Shane will say that to me when we get something. Oh, we need to weather that up, and I want to do this or that, and I'm like, don't touch it.
I'm kind of with you on that too, Tony. Lately, I've just been kind of trying to just kind of be a collector aspect of it, keeping everything clean, and it's hard to dirty them up. It's very hard.
I like both, and I appreciate it. And running trains, they look great. It's
Absolutely.
wonderful, the guys that do it, but yeah, sometimes I have a hard time. Like, oh, they look so good.
Yeah,
there's definitely some talented folks out there. We've showcased them on both Train Tuesday and our social media. And there's also a gentleman, I apologize, I can't remember the name of the channel off the top of my head, but he's modeling modern day California. It's a point-to-point switching layout, and
yeah,
he's got graffiti on his. In fact, he just picked up a Genesis GP15 a few months back, and James, you would know better than all of us here. That's prototypical now. You're seeing graffiti on locos, aren't you?
You don't see a locomotive or a piece of rolling stock down here without graffiti.
Wow.
If it doesn't have graffiti, that doesn't make sense. It has to have graffiti if it's in Southern California. That's just the way things are down here. And some of it's actually, you could tell that there's an artistic side to them, and some of it's just, just random stuff. But you see a lot out there when you're rail fanning down here.
Wow. So this one here, I'm gonna call this picture foreshadowing. Take a look at it. You see what I'm seeing?
The stack cars, is that the?
No. Look a little higher.
Oh, it's at Fremont. Yeah, the UP flag. And
so for whatever reason, that was the first thing that stuck out when I saw this picture. But neat picture. But this isn't 1985. So a few more years. Now, am I reading this one correctly, Tony? This one says Lackawanna, New York. 1987.
I would guess so, yeah. I'm not sure how, what, or why.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a John Benson slide, and he was very, very good about information on him. So yeah.
That's interesting. I never thought that they came that far east.
Yeah.
The plow got switched out on that one too at some point.
Yeah.
But it's odd.
Interesting picture here, 1983. Another Jim Boyd picture.
Man, look at that turquoise Ford pickup over there. Is that a factory color?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
that looks like, I won't bore the Dodge and Chevy fans, but I think that's
Are
a
there? Wait a minute.
71, 72. Yeah.
Wait a minute, time out. Are there Dodge and Chevy fans?
We're still getting in trouble for our remarks about the Corvettes and the
That's
last
okay. All right. Now I won't get into it then. All right. Move on. Yeah.
Speaking of Fords,
Oh, here we go. Yeah.
here's the golden hour of Ford right there.
That poor little Mustang too.
Yeah, a little picked up thing.
Mm.
Man. Anyways, let's.
And I like that car. It follows.
Do you?
It follows the Mustang blew up into the
Right.
big Mustang for it's in Diamonds Are Forever. There's a red one, and then the 74 to maybe 76 is this little Mustang too. And yeah, between the emissions stuff and other things, it's good that it's out in this yard because basically it's almost like a lawn tractor is about what its get up and go had.
Right. Yeah, and in fact,
that's what they were.
Yeah,
doing.
I was gonna guess Illinois.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for the era, since I'm from New England, I'm gonna go ahead and get a few people mad. It's Illinois.
No.
Yeah. But besides the Ford here, getting an oil change, it looks like we've got Jim Boyd took this picture. This is an '83, and the locomotive at this point is newer than the Mustang. The Mustang 2 there. Neat picture. I like how he framed it.
And Boyd's stuff. Yeah, as I go through the stuff, you can just see the eye that he had for things. Because look at the bicycle leaning against the tree. The cars up here being worked on, and he catches that. That going through Boyd's stuff. Yeah, there's tons of 3/4 roster shots, and just the usual. But then you run into stuff like this, and it's like, wow, that's a cool shot.
It really is. It tells a story, and there's a Emery Goulash was another one that was good for that, both in print and film. It's neat because it tells a story. It definitely sets a time and place, and you can just make out the maintenance truck back there, and just a really cool picture. This is a nice picture. 1983, Nelson, Illinois. I've rail fan there. That's a neat picture.
And you guys have done that 40-2, and I think they're ready to roll with some of those details. I think I bought one of those in the last couple years from a release, and those are slick.
Number 5082, got a little bit of grime on there. Not too bad. Another shot of 5082, Council Bluffs in 1985. So yeah, a lot of, and I think Chicago Northwestern had a lot of these. They like the GP50s.
Yeah. This is when they were finally coming into some money. They basically were, speaking of that poor old Mustang, they were keeping old power as long as they could keep running it. But then the Powder River coal blows up on them. They're in the early, so they basically go from a road running, poor old this or that's to buying nice serious power. So these were definite good years for the Northwestern.
Oh yeah. 1991.
There's a burn.
1993. Yeah. Here's an earlier shot, 1981. This is in Salt Lake City. So yeah, you shared with us some great pictures of Chicago Northwestern. Like I said, I've got one here on the workbench. Let's see. This is from the previous release.
It's one of those roads, once you start seeing pictures and things, you kind of get psyched for it. Like,
yeah, you do.
Yeah, I'd like to see more. Yeah.
It's a neat, a while back I got to go to Jack Ross's club out in California. And Jack is one of our developers, and he's like, "Hey, you want to run something?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, sure." And what's he put me on? Chicago Northwestern. So it was perfect. He's like, "You're from Illinois. You can run Chicago Northwestern." All right. So What else do we have in here? I think you sent me some more. Let me look through this
I
folder
think
here
the
real
last
quick.
one, I didn't have a lot, but I think Norfolk Southern is in the group, and I think I
Yeah,
found
we're
a few,
talking
but I didn't have many.
not too many, but the Norfolk Southern ones, now these are cool because they were high hood and they ran long hood forward. Here we go. And guys, I only got a couple of pictures on these, but guys, if you've got comments that you're directing towards me, try to save them towards the end of the show because what you can't see is I'm running stuff behind the scenes here. But at the end of the show, we will definitely open it up for comments and questions, and any three of us can answer your questions. So let's share the 2 Norfolk Southern pictures you found for us. And these look brand new. So,
No,
wow, I'm looking at the date on this
2002.
one.
Yeah,
2002.
yeah.
Very cool.
And I think I'm trying to think now if these are late enough. They kept underneath the road number. You'd have the NW or SOU for Southern.
Here you go. It looks like Southern there.
Yeah. So again, these were still bought where they were kind of classified as one of the others roads. So yeah, I think these were Southern.
Yeah.
Early 80s buys. Because what Norfolk Southern is 1982. So these might have, I'm trying to think now if they hit as Southern painted. I think they did.
I think these arrived as originally Southern units,
Yeah.
and then they became Norfolk Southern. And it's kind of neat, when I first moved to Illinois, you still saw high hood Norfolk Southern units, and it wasn't something that you saw much anymore. It was even in the late 90s, it was getting kind of rare. Here we have 2002, and you still have the high hood, and that's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Now this one here, this is familiar to me, and Tony, probably you too, because Decatur gets this guy.
That's a cool train.
I can't remember if that's still running. That comes into Kansas City, that Triple Crown with the
Triple
road
Crown
railings.
Last I knew it was.
It's one of the last ones though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think most of these they've kind of aged out as far as equipment, and they're just not doing them. But
it's a neat train. I mean, I've got some pictures from not too long ago, actually, of this going through Bement, Illinois. And, as a kid, I remember that Conrail doing that. On the East Coast, we had Conrail doing the road railers. And that was something that was really unique for its time. And like you said, you don't see it much anymore.
Amtrak is.
Go ahead.
Yeah, James Amtrak. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah. So really cool. So some good memories here of the GP50s. I'm going to throw it out there, James. You won the Athearn lottery. What road would you choose out of that group?
That's a very hard question. Those tiger stripes are really cool. They're really cool looking. The BNSF patch GP50 is really cool. That holds a special place. I'd have to probably go, if I were to only pick one pair or one road, I would go with the tiger stripes.
Yeah.
Be the standout of the release. Those are really beautiful looking models.
Yeah.
Tony, how about you?
I think the same, because I think I have a Northwestern from a previous run of the Genesis. So I have one of those sitting on the shelf. So yeah, the tiger stripe I'd pick up. But the Northwestern, yeah, if I didn't have one of those, that would be tough to decide. Yeah.
It would. Well, we're gonna hit the Wayback Machine. We were talking about a locomotive that was in 1980. Let's go to a simpler time. Let's go back to an era of beautiful Ford Fairlanes and Frankie Valley and the Four Seasons, and let's go to 1960. And 1960, EMD had a follow-up to their wildly successful GP9 called the GP18. And it was really kind of the last, hurrah of those high hood 4-axle Jeeps. Because after that, we would get the low-nosed GP20, and even the GP18 would eventually get a low hood.
Mm-hmm.
But, James, that's probably a locomotive that you probably didn't see outside of a museum, if I willing to
Unfortunately, I
bet.
was not able to see that one in person.
Tony, how about you?
I do remember Jeep 18s on the Illinois Central Gulf, and like TP&W had one, Alonos.
That's right.
So yeah, I would see them from time to time. As a kid, I always confused them with Jeep 9s because I didn't know, with the fans, and then later, there is a late like phase 3 Jeep 9 that goes to the 48-inch fans that,
Right.
well, it looked a little like an 18. So yeah, there's some spotting there that, again, you might get confused, and even the 7s to an extent. 7s, 9s, and 18s all have some real similarity to them, but yeah, the 18s are sweet model, and that's the latest in this line of the Genesis first generation Jeeps. Is what that 18's been out maybe a year, 2 years, maybe.
Yeah. So you know what? I'll bring that up here real quick. So back in March of 2020, we made the first announcement on the Genesis GP18s, and it was something that a lot of our customers were asking for, and so we went ahead and we did some work, and we came out with the GP18. And like you were saying, at first, at a casual glance, it looks like a GP9, but you have to take a real look at those details. And of course, the fans are a standout. The grills are a standout. Little subtle things that you have to look at. And we announced that in March of 2020. They came out last spring. And let me bring an ad here, because one of your guys did a review on this, Tony, and I think it was it in the July Model Railroad News.
This, I think Chris Atkins did. It's a Northern Pacific.
That's
and he
right.
did a fantastic review. And then I did a review of the early 70s NW. And then I think at the St. Louis RPM, I had a handful of people tell me things I missed on it. Like,
so yeah, we were close.
Like, oh, you didn't catch this, or you should have mentioned that. And it's like, oh, well, yeah, see, that's why I shouldn't do as many of these. But Chris did a great job on the Northern Pacific one. But yeah, what an awesome model. That huge like steam locomotive bell on the port hood. Yeah.
Yeah, these sold out quick. I was able to grab 2 Burlington Northern ones from my own collection. In fact, I'll fire mine up here in a minute. And the Illinois Central sold out really quickly. The Illinois Central and the original, green diamond paint scheme, just a classy paint scheme.
Oh yeah.
The Northern Pacific, and of course we did an early Burlington Northern patch job of the Northern Pacific, and then the Northern Pacific BN GP18s that we did, they were all based on Northern Pacific locomotives as well. And Chris really liked his, and somebody else did a review. Let me see. Is there somebody else in the room that did a review on the GP18?
I think I did one.
I think you did, James. In fact, let's go ahead and share it. I've got it up here in a little bit. Now, for those of you watching, if you've not seen James's channel, go on over to Hybrid Hobbies and check it out. And you're uploading train videos pretty consistently, aren't you?
Yes. I try to stay to a schedule of at least once every 2 weeks. I try to get a little more frequently, but I try to stay at least once every 2 weeks. I'll get one out. Yeah,
and I mean, your reviews are. Let's see. I've got it coming up here. The wheel is thinking. It's going to make us watch an ad. It does this to me every time. You can't get away from that on YouTube. Here we go.
You can't. You got to get ad blocker.
You got to pay. Yeah, you can pay for YouTube. Yeah. I did finally do that.
Same here, Tony.
So, James, here you're looking at, ironically enough, the same locomotive that's behind me, number 1992, former Northern Pacific. Still got that cool steam-looking bell on it, and you ran it at the club that you're at right now, right, James?
Yes, I did. In fact, I have it with me as well.
Well, very cool. Well, if you guys watching this, check this review out. It's I think you did it in just about 10 minutes, and there's some great stuff in there. The other thing James does is he shows prototype images, and whenever possible too, you've done some reviews of models and actually had video footage of the actual prototype.
Yes. I mean, every now and then, if we do a more modern model, I'll have some footage myself, or I'll find other videographers on YouTube who have video and reach out to them and kind of coordinate together to get a good production out of these cool models, basically.
Yeah, no, they are definitely cool. I mean, the GP18 has a soft spot for me. We'll get into that a little bit later. But James, you said you've got yours with you there. Is it? Can we see it from?
Yeah,
from
let me get this camera off the tripod here and do a little switch here. I'm not sure if I could switch to my other camera, but here I'll go. So we're at the upper level of the club here.
And we'll let him get set up, Tony, and then I'll minimize myself and you, and then we can get a good picture of the layout. And
it's right there. And turn her on here. Got it muted. There we go. Here she is, guys. This is the unit that we did the review on. Still chugging away here, putting in plenty of hours of service for us. All right. 1 second here, just having a throttle issue. All right. So if you want, we could take her around the whole railroad. Yeah, there she is, guys.
And yeah, I've noticed it looks brand new. So you haven't done any weathering on your locomotive.
No, I haven't. Most of my Genesis stuff I don't weather. I just, it's so beautiful. I just like looking at it, and the paint is so crisp. I got a little bit of dirty track here. Sorry, guys. That's one of the main things I do too when I come in. I'll clean the track layout and everything. I just arrived a little late today. It's on a siding as well. The main line's usually pretty clean.
Oh, okay.
But
well,
yeah.
You know what? If everybody, myself and Tony and over 166 other folks weren't watching, it would be
it would work
clean track. Yeah, it's always the way.
Of course.
Yeah.
Ask anybody that has an operating session.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Everything works
as
fine.
you were saying earlier, there's some really good weatherers out there who do some really amazing work, and I've literally been considering lately to send some of my stuff to some of these guys and pay for their services to get it done, because they just do some phenomenal work.
Yep.
I can think of a couple off the top of my head, but I'm sure a lot of you guys know a couple of them. So yeah, this is it.
Now, James, quickly tell us a little bit about your club, since they're nice enough to host an Athearn Extra. Tell us a little bit about the club.
Yes, so we're located in Norwalk, California, about maybe, I'd say, 5 to 10 miles here, kind of out of the LA area. And basically, we've been here for quite some time, many decades. I want to say since I believe the 60s. I'll have to confirm with some of the older modelers here.
37 years.
37 years. So,
thank you to the off camera.
Yeah. We got some of the members here where we're doing some construction on some of the layout, working on our yard. I'll do just a little walk around as I'm talking to you guys. This is our staging yard here.
Okay.
Referred to as Oakland's, where we get everything staged up. This is the lower level, so that'll come out here and just kind of come around and get you onto the layout. Which comes down here. And we got Steve and Robbie working tonight on stuff. So yeah, it would take a long time to give you guys the whole tour, so I might have to save that for a video.
Now, how many members does your club have?
I want to say we're about 30 roughly strong.
42.
42. About 42 strong right now. We've been getting a lot of new members. The YouTube channels actually has been bringing us a lot of membership lately.
Oh, that's
a lot of
great.
people are finding out a little bit more about the club through YouTube, seeing our videos. And yeah, so there's been a strong kind of growth we've had lately.
That's good to hear. And if somebody is in your area, you're open to having new members.
Absolutely. If you're in the
Okay,
Southern
great.
California area and you're looking somewhere to run your trains, come on down. We'd love to meet you.
Now, does the club have a website that they anybody can look at and get some more
We do.
information?
We do. It's on my YouTube in the
Okay.
in the website section of different websites, things I recommend. And you can also find it by just Googling California Southern Model Railroad Club.
Okay.
At the top of my head, I believe it's a TrainWeb linked website.
Okay.
Trainweb.org, and I believe it's / California Southern Model Railroad. But if you Google us, it'll pop up. It'll pop up as one of the first search results.
Excellent. Well, yeah. So there you go, guys. If you're in that area and you're looking for a place, and man, I'm a little envious. I don't know about you, Tony, but can you imagine some of the trains we could run on that layout?
That's really nice. I was looking at that staging yard thinking that's the biggest thing whenever I try to think about building something here is like, yeah, but I need all this space that I'd want to have passenger trains, coal trains, whatever lined up.
Mhm.
And I need a whole other room for that. And a club layout is
I was going
fantastic.
to say we have our storage yard down here too.
Wow.
Yeah. And then this is the back of that staging yard too. You still got more back
Right.
here.
Yeah. That's
Wow.
sweet. Yeah.
You can run some long ones here.
Yeah.
And most of our
Definitely.
members do. Our members like to run long trains.
And
Very
so
good.
your video reviews, they're all done on that layout, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Majority of my videos are done here. Every now and then, especially during COVID, sometimes I'd be stuck at home when the surge kind of got high. So I do some videos at home, but majority of things are shot here. Yes, that is correct.
That's amazing. Well, if you guys want to test my metal on, I got done doing this today, Tony, and I've still got some fine tuning to do, but I've got my GP18 here. Let me see if I've got the Athearn rail cam set up here.
Up and rolling. Okay.
See what we got. There we go.
There we go.
Nice.
Speaking of 1960, that wallpaper is from 1960. Maybe by the next time the Athearn Extra is on, we'll have Skyboard back there. But I'm going to fire up my throttle here. And Tony, while I'm firing this up, tell me, what do you think your first memory of the GP18 would be when you were younger rail fanning?
Probably the black IC green diamonds would have been after the ICG merger in '72. That when we first started seeing IC power, I grew up on the GM&O, and so when it turned over to ICG in the early '70s, probably seeing some of those early. And I think IC had both high hood and maybe order of low hood 18s as well. And
Okay.
yeah, I always kind of remember. But the low hood one would always remind me because the Tyco Jeep 20 was so everywhere in the hobby that when I'd see those as a little bitty kid, it's like, oh, that looks like which they are kind of close, a 20 and an 18. But yeah.
We'll bring this guy into view. I won't go too far because I got to line that main switch, but let's bring him up here. I'm a sucker, Tony, for Cascade Green, and I grew up in the Northeast.
Classic, yeah. I think I got, my babysitter when I was a little kid, she was an operator at one of the BN, I think in Greenfield, Illinois. I'd have to think of this. And she and her husband ended up working for Burlington Northern for many years. So yeah, my babysitter worked for the BN when I was a little kid. Yeah, Cindy McIntyre. But yeah, so to me, I would see it, but it was never our road because I was on the GM&O. But that whole streak, if you remember in the '70s, all those BN soft cover annuals.
Mm-hmm.
I always bought those, and man, that made me a BN fan just going through all of those annuals every year.
Oh yeah, I mean it's one of those roads that growing up, like I said, when you thought of the big sky country, for whatever reason BN was there, and I just always thought about those big Northwest scenes with that Cascade Green. It was just a really cool picture. So this is 1992. This is the same one that you just showed us, James.
Yep.
And former Northern Pacific locomotive. This is based on the 70s paint scheme. So this one only has 4 steps. Later on, if you'll remember, BN took some of their GP18s, probably around 80, 81. I don't remember the exact date. And they gave them a 5-step, which was pretty common with Great Northern Jeeps. But this particular one here, 1992, has the 4-step. And this is, I picked this one up mainly because of the 70s vintage, which is kind of where I'm squarely at in modeling. And yeah, it's just a neat locomotive. And the reason why I said I was fine tuning it is because I've been playing with the proto throttle again.
Oh, nice.
So
Nice.
it's when you have a small switching layout like myself, those are a little bit more, puts a lot more fun and challenge into the switching.
Yeah, they are perfect for that.
Yeah.
Is this now, James? You got help me on the BN stuff here. If I remember right, the short hood's got white stripes, and I'm not seeing it, so we'll find you can flip it around. They only white striped, I think, what would be the front.
Correct.
Correct.
Right.
So yeah, the other end is just green. Yeah.
When they formed in 1970, they got Northern Pacific, Great Northern, Spokane, Portland, Seattle, all of those guys, and of course my favorite, the CB&Q. And some railroads ran their first generation Jeeps short hood forward, some long.
Yeah.
And one of the ways Burlington Northern would help people know which is the front is where those barricade stripes were. And so in this case, Northern Pacific had their control stand set up for short hood forward. And, they went ahead and did this. And, we saw that very similarly with Chessie. Chessie did that as well. They would put the Chessie logo on one side of the nose to show which was the long hood. Now, in this release here, we had the only Baltimore and Ohio GP18, which was running long hood forward. And that was a one-off. That was the only one Baltimore and Ohio had. And but for this run that we're doing now, and I'm going to go ahead and minimize this so we've got some room. For this run here, we're going to do some East Coast railroads. And one that was highly requested was Lehigh Valley. And I think, Tony, you've got some pictures of that, if I remember right.
I think I got a couple of shots here. I'll bring those up. And a couple of these I think I sourced off the internet, so they're not our White River stuff. This is but I think this is one you're doing. This is patched Lehigh Valley for Conrail because they went into Conrail in '76. I think Rock Island's in that run too, so we'll come back to that. But here is Kevin Udaly shot of, and I forget now. Lehigh Valley is one of those, I don't know the road that well, but then as I start studying it, it's interesting for all the paint schemes. It's like, look here, you can see that unit's a different scheme than this, and it might be probably a different Jeep too. But this one is also, it's got the small with the flag, yet the other one was kind of the big. What's coming in the Athearn run? We're
actually doing two variations of that.
Oh, okay.
We're doing the original paint scheme. In fact, I'll tell you what, I'll bring that up here in a little bit.
That one,
and we can go through them. But that was another road that was highly requested, and it's a good point for me to make about our product suggestion email. I talk about it a lot on Train Tuesday, and we want to make models that you guys are interested in. So we have these surveys out occasionally, and we also have that product suggestion email. And we got a lot of people asking for Lehigh Valley. And so we said, you know what, this is a line that we haven't done in quite a while. So we brought these out, and it also gave us an opportunity to do the two different paint schemes. Now, the first ones that you showed us, Tony, with the smaller flag, that's the 1960s paint scheme.
Okay.
And then the big Lehigh Valley, that's the 1970s. That's right up until the Conrail takeover. And then, so we're offering two in the 1960s paint scheme, 302 and 303. And then we're also offering 305, which is the 1970s paint scheme. But for you early Conrail guys, like that picture you just showed, we are offering the Prime for Grime Conrail number 7499, which basically is a faded out Lehigh Valley with patchwork on it. And we were talking earlier about weathering and things of that nature. Well, Athearn's done the hard work for you. A little bit of Del Coat and a little bit of touch up with some rust and grime, and you've got yourself a really convincing model.
That's an awesome era of Conrail, these early days when everything had those CR patches. And I'm going to give a shout out to another publisher. I think it's Rudy Garbely, if I'm saying that right, Garbely. Check him out. He's got a handful of Conrail Rainbow Year. We reviewed him in Model Railroad News. There's like a 3 or 4 volume set now of soft cover books that are this whole Conrail. And again, just as you talk about when you think of Rainbow Year, I always think of early days of Amtrak.
Exactly.
But his series on Conrail Rainbow Years is all this kind of stuff, and it's a real fascinating time because all this power was kind of on its last legs. They didn't repaint a lot of it; it got patched up, and by the mid '80s and Conrail starting to do better, the stuff was all gone. But it's an exciting time for their first like 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, it really is, and I can see why it's popular. We have a lot of folks ask for Conrail, and those early ragtag years always are interesting, to any, right after a merger type of thing.
Yeah, you could say a lot of different railroads had rainbow eras.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the other ones that we're doing in this run, and by the way, I want to mention, you've only got till next Friday to pre-order these. So guys that were asking for Conrail and Lehigh Valley, you've got till next Friday to place your orders. But I've also got another, and actually one of the biggest orders of GP18s went to this railroad, and that's Mopac. And we are doing these in Mopac as well. This is their Jinx Blue, which I always thought this... the problem I have, Tony, there's so many railroads that have paint schemes I really enjoy, and this is another one.
Yeah. And this one comes up ever since the 18's been out, and I know this run is still high hoods, but I don't know how many emails I've gotten. When are they going to do the Mopacs with the Type B Alco trucks and the low nose? So I'm sure they will at some point, because 2 of those are the bicentennials as well, which is awesome. Yeah. But this next run will get you set up for the Jinx Blue high hood Jeep 18s from Mopac. And yeah, Mopac, I think, in fact, I've got if you're ever looking for reference on that stuff, well, of course I don't have it here. Well, no, maybe I do. No, I don't. The diesel era books on these different Jeeps are fantastic. And I thought I had the 18 book. For some reason, I have the Jeep 20 book. But these books will give you all the roster stuff, the years they operated, the different paint schemes, and there is a Jeep 18 book from diesel era as well. That's awesome. And yeah, I think Mopac, without them, it almost doesn't exist as far as total production. They had a huge chunk of Jeep 18s.
Yeah. Now they had, according to what our developers found out, 151. And the ones that we're doing for this round, you're absolutely correct. These are the high hood versions. We're doing 3 different road numbers: 512, 516, 527. And, we'll see what happens down the road. I think we're going to see some more variations of the GP18. The first run sold out quickly. I've got high hopes for this run too. And now, I've said this before, so I'm going to give this away, but I've always considered this next railroad that we're doing the Boston and Maine of the Midwest. You want to take a guess at it, Tony?
Would it be the Rock Island, maybe?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Rock Island. And we're doing some interesting variations on these. Now, we're doing 2 in their 1960 paint scheme, which is that nice maroon, kind of the Art Deco Rock Island font and the pinstripes. And then an early repaint, 1970s repaint with the new logo on the cab. And interesting backstory here. We talked last month about the SD80s and how I was used to seeing first generation high hoods. One of my first locomotives I got to railfan a lot was a GP18. And ironically enough, it was the sister to one of the locomotives that we are offering in this run, Rock Island number 1340. Now, I've said it before on other shows. where I grew up, a small short line called New England Southern. One of their first locomotives was a GP18. It was a former Rock Island number 1341. And in fact, I'm going to try to share this picture I found this afternoon of the actual locomotive.
They would have picked it up after Rock Island went bust in '80, and the power kind of went
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah, and this one here, let's see if it comes up. Yeah, here we go.
Oh,
So here it is, 503, and this is still in Blue Island, Illinois. Now, this is a Tom Golden picture. I got this off from the Railroad Picture Archives website, and this is a great modeling tool if you're ever working on a specific locomotive. But there she is in all her glory in 1985. Rumor had it was John Deere green. I'm not sure about that or not, but this was the locomotive I chased all over Concord and Canterbury and Manchester in the 80s and 90s. And let's see, she is now, see if I can find this picture. I can show you one from when I got the most pictures of her from. Go ahead and remove this one.
I don't think I'd ever heard of that road. I know we talked. What
It's
was the
tiny.
one? What was the road that does they serve that one furniture factory, and you guys are doing box cars for it? Remember that?
Oh yeah, they served Ethan Allen out of Beecher,
I was
Vermont.
trying to think if that's what
Originally it was originally served by Maine Central.
Yeah.
And then wow, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember that now, but yeah,
I got so occupied in my memories of Negs, or Nessie as we call her back east, that I've forgotten the name of the short line. Here's one from my high school era, and you can tell that the green didn't last too long. Here she is in her home of Concord, New Hampshire. You can see the old Boston and Maine tower behind her there. And yeah, at some point they added that New England logo to it. When she was originally delivered, she didn't have that. But
wow, that is
my most favorite memory was chasing this train, and the owner and operator of this railroad had a black lab at the time, and I've always determined that someday I will do this in HO and have the copy of the picture I took of the black lab with its head out the window, going down through Bow Junction. But yeah, so there's a connection right there. And believe it or not, this old locomotive, it's still in revenue service. It's actually working for not too far from Concord, New Hampshire North Coast, which is a short line off from the old Boston and Maine. So it's amazing that these GP18s are still, earning their keep for a lot of short lines around the world. Now, Tony, did you have any other pictures of some GP18s to share with us?
I think, and you'll have to remind me what you guys are doing on it, but I think I have a couple of Rock Islands. I know there's a couple of Rock Island schemes. This, I think, is their as delivered scheme. If you can put that, I think I'm sharing the screen there.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah, there we are. 1353. That's one of the paint schemes that we're doing that you see there, in a simple paint scheme, but very classy.
I think it followed that. They had and if you look at the outline, it's the old black and red rocket scheme, but it's like they kept the striping but went to solid maroon. But that's I believe how these were delivered, with silver ends on the handrails and such. But yeah, it's nice looking. And I'm trying to think if I have one more, if I can get that to work back. Because you said you're doing another Rock Island, I think, in this.
We're doing 3 altogether.
There is this.
There it is. Yeah.
And this, I think, is essentially just that with the striping.
That's the actual unit that we're doing, 1348.
Oh, okay.
It's an early repaint, and Yeah, Rock Island was one of those railroads that you really need to, if you model it, you really need to pick a time and date, because some of these locomotives would change and have wild colors from it seemed like day to day,
Yeah.
you know. And this
Like
is one of those repaints.
Like this is probably, I think this I sourced off the web, but the unit to its left in front of it there's white. So I assume it's in a new image, Blue the Rock from the mid 70s. And then that looks like a U25B that it's coupled up to that's got the yellow in. So it's either maroon or red. Yeah, literally to find any Rock Island consist that all units were painted the same scheme would not be prototypical.
Right. Probably not. Probably not. Kind of like the Rock Island of the East problem would have.
Yeah, but
Now,
that made them so, it was fun to model. That's
Yeah.
where I learned the term the dog's breakfast. I remember seeing that in some magazine and it was some horrible shot of like nothing matched. Everything's in a different paint scheme. Some of the doors are rearranged, so it doesn't even say Rock Island on the long hood. And it was, I don't know whose caption, but it was like, here's a dog's breakfast consist of, power on the Rock Island. It's like, that just so says it. Yeah, that's the Rock Island.
That is. As we've heard in music before, it was a mighty fine road. But boy, by the 1960s and into the 70s, she's getting a little rough around the edges. But man, that's what makes it so fun to model.
It is.
Does.
That's what's drawn me into it. Absolutely.
So James, you've mentioned some Rock Island in the past. I mean, you think you're going to see one of these Rock Island GP18s in your future?
I think so. I've been really kind of researching Rock Island in the New Mexico area.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think it would fit right at home and what I'm kind of aiming for.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, it's another one of those cool railroads. And I just wish I could have seen it, before it was gone. It was gone in 1980, March of 1980, it was gone. And,
Well, we got a little taste of it now with the revival down.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. The guy down in Mississippi, it's got a hint.
Yeah, actually, that's just a few hours south for Tony and I. So
there you go.
There's a rail fan trip in the making, I think.
I've already been. Yeah, it's on my bucket list for this spring summer for a diesel era feature, because I think he now has 3 or 4 units. He's got a couple of Jeeps in Blue the Rock. He's got like a -8 6-axle in red.
Yeah.
Oh,
with the big speed letter Rock Island. Yeah. So cool stuff.
Yeah, very cool. Now we're doing some Seaboard Coastline in this run too. We're going to do 2 different numbers. We're doing 1061 and 1063. And Tony, I know you know this. Seaboard Coastline, they had a nice phrase. You remember the phrase?
Pulling for you.
Yeah. And we're going to do 1063 actually has the pulling for you phrase painted on the side of it. And this is another one of those roads, Tony and James, we had a lot of requests for. We're seeing some guys asking for Seaboard Coastline. So we thought, you know what, the GP18, that's perfect. We'll go ahead and get some of those made up for you guys. And then another one.
I don't know why that's not more popular, but that Southeast. And it certainly got the attention. You got like J. Parker Lamb, Warren Calloway. A lot of guys shot it. There's books on Southern, Seaboard, all of those. Yet, it tends to be a little bit underserved, I think, as obviously the Midwest and West seems super popular, and then the big roads in the East. But the Southeast, if there's any one spot of the U.S. that doesn't get enough models done, can be that. So, it'll be interesting to see that Seaboard Coastline 18 one.
Yeah, definitely. We're seeing a lot more, people asking for that region. So, I think you'll see Athearn doing some more of that. So for you folks that are fans of that region, especially in the 60s and 70s into the 80s, you'll probably see some more of that. So, so we're going to do those, and those are based on their initial order. Now, the Seaboard Coastline, of course, was formed in '67 after the merger of Atlantic Coastline and Seaboard Airline. And these GP18s, really classy. Again, it's one of those simple paint schemes, but it's classy. The black and the yellow, really classy. And here's one, James. I don't know if you've ever had an opportunity to see any of these, but the GP18s and the Grand Trunk Western paint scheme, the black and Morrissey red.
I have not personally been able to see them.
I
GP18 in person yet.
ah
Yep.
well,
Not seen the prototype yet.
maybe
We don't
one
have
of
too
these.
many out here.
No, not
No.
out there. There's
Yeah.
that's where all the big stuff is. How about you, Tony? You remember seeing those?
Grand Trunk, I didn't see a lot of. Would have gotten into kind of the Chicago area. So as a kid, no. And Grand Trunk had, and I don't know Grand Trunk history that well, but you've got the blue and that what you call it Morrissey red, which I didn't know its official name. And then there's the black scheme, and of course they were owned by CN. They're one of CN's subsidiaries. Is why you got the interlock GT like the wet noodle CN logo. But
yeah. It's one that I'm just far enough when I'm in Illinois. It's just far enough south. I don't see too much of it. Although our category manager lives on the main line of the former Illinois Central, and he says he'll still see ghosts, if you will, of the Grand Trunk. So kind of neat. But we're going to offer those, and I think we're doing those in three different road numbers. So this next release, we got a little bit of everything. We've got some upper Midwest, we've got some East Coast, we've got some Southern flavor in there for you guys. So a little bit of everything. And we have until next Friday to place our pre-orders. I already know what I'm going to get. I mean, Tony, I'll ask you the question. You won the Athearn lottery. What road are you taking home out of the GP18s?
I probably have to do the Rock Islands.
Yeah. I know what James's answer is.
It's definitely one of the Rock Islands.
So far, we've been unanimous on what we want. We all said with the GP50s, the Burlington Northern with the tiger stripes, and I think we're pretty unanimous on the Rock Island too. So that's great. Well, you know what? We've got a little bit of time. Well, you guys want to stick around for some questions?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
We'll do some questions, and that also reminds me too, for you guys that are watching out there and watching the hobby shop, I got some good news for you. In fact, give me a second here, and let me show you what's coming to your hobby shop in about a week. So you guys want to see some motive power and some new freight cars coming in. Let me bring the camera back up, and let me see where he's at. So it's going to take a little bit because he's on the other side of the office. But the highly anticipated Trinity covered hoppers in the Genesis line, those are going to be here early March. And the one that I'm going to show you tonight, as soon as we bring them in here, is the BNSF ones with the added stiffeners. So, James, I know you're going to be all over that because we're offering it in the original circle cross paint scheme.
Oh, nice.
And, of course, the swoosh. And I think it's just coming into – there we go.
There it is.
And if you look carefully, Tony, you'll see those addition
That's nice.
of the stiffeners.
Yeah,
there you go. Can kind of barely make it out there. And these, you know what? These aren't even in this particular run is not my era, but these Genesis Trinity covered hoppers are just amazing in the detail.
A great model.
It's a lot of nice stuff there. Now, something that's in your hobby shops right now are the PCNF boxcars. These are in your hobby shop right now. And again, Genesis detail, so they're beautiful. I just picked this one up for this layout here.
Nice.
And this is what the Southern guys are going to be wanting to see.
Oh, L&N.
There it is.
There's another underserved in Southern Road.
Exactly.
As much, yeah.
Nice.
Oh, I love the yellow. Yeah,
isn't that nice?
Mm-hmm.
So this is the GP9s that we offered for pre-order last December. I think it was last December. Let's put the headlight on this guy and let's get that rotating beacon going.
Nice.
Oh, that's cool.
Isn't that neat?
Sweet.
These we had some delays, but these are going to be here in March, early March. So we're hoping, we're about a week away really from March. So not too much longer. And this run here, we had the L&N, like you see here. We had 3 different Boston and Maine. We had some Canadian Pacific, and I know which one, Tony, you and I talked about was the TH&B.
Oh, definitely. And I think you showed some
Yeah.
pictures of that. And last week or so, I was on with Otter Valley, my buddy up there, and he showed pictures of those and was all excited that those TH&Bs
Yeah.
were coming out. Yeah.
Lauren
James that runs Otter
Yeah.
Valley.
Lauren is a wealth of information on Canadian roads.
Yeah.
And there's not much that he doesn't know about. So, yeah, you guys that have been waiting for the GP9s, they are going to be here in early March. And in fact, I think I got confirmation today that they are going to be here first week of March. So if you pre-ordered these, you're probably going to get a phone call from your dealer. If you did not pre-order one of these and you're like, man, I should have gotten a GP9, I would be calling your dealer now because I've got 3 on pre-order. I know Tony's been interested in those TB&H, and James, I know it's an early locomotive for you, but you got some love for the GP9?
Definitely. The ATSF's coming out in this run as well.
That's right. Yeah.
Those look pretty sharp.
What's the Santa Fe scheme for this one?
It's the blue and yellow war bonnet.
Yellow. Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Nice.
Now here's a question for you, Tony, because Tony, with the publications that you're in and everything, you've probably heard of all kinds of railfan names for paint schemes. In your years, and years about a year ago, I was doing a Train Tuesday, and I referred to the Santa Fe yellow and blue war bonnet as a Cub Scout, and I was derided for weeks, saying that's no such thing as that. Nobody calls it a Cub Scout, but I know I've heard Cub Scout. How about you? Is it just an Illinois thing or maybe a central Illinois thing? I don't know.
The war bonnet livery called Cub Scout?
Cub Scout.
The blue and yellow?
Yeah. And that's, that's why I always thought maybe that's why they called it. James is like, no, we don't. We don't call it.
I've always heard yellow bonnet.
Yeah,
yellow
and that
bonnet.
is
Yeah, I've heard that too.
James has it. That's absolutely right. For the freight in 72, when they adopted it, it's August of 72 to go into that. And freight war bonnet is what I called it for years. But yes, yellow bonnet is its official name.
Yeah.
But Cub Scout.
Yeah, Tom says, I've never heard of that, Jim.
Afraid we're not. We can't go with that. We can't go with that, Jim.
I'm going to blame Mandela effect. I think it's a Mandela effect. I think in a different universe, it's called the Cub Scout.
Saw that someplace? Okay.
Yeah.
If I ever do see it, I will scan or send you a link or go, well, there you go. But
there it is. There it is. So, okay. Well, let's see what's going on out there. So, guys, we've shown you some great stuff. And Tony and James, thanks for coming on board tonight. Thanks for showing us some great pictures. I love the history aspect of this hobby. I don't know about you guys, but it's just really cool to see this stuff. And here's your chance. If you've got a question for James and his YouTube channel, if you got a question for Tony, you got a question for Athearn, go ahead and throw it out there. I'm going to kind of watch as many as I can. I can't promise you that I'll catch all of them, but go ahead and throw some questions out there. And let's talk a little bit of model trains before I let you guys go. So we got some neat comments going on there. My father introduced me to Athearn in 1960. Good year.
Yeah.
Nice.
Blue box was yellow box then.
Yeah.
Right. Tony, while we're waiting on a couple of questions, tell us how you got into the hobby.
It always was. I didn't get into the hobby. Yeah. My dad was a rail fan and a model railroader. So, that is almost like asking, when did you get into eating? Well, we always had a kitchen in the house. So yeah, we always had a refrigerator with food. So no, it's same thing. Yeah, dad had a train room, and from the time I was a little kid, it was either train, books and slides on real railroads and going rail fanning or model trains. So I thought everybody had a room full of model trains. And find out not everybody does. So, yeah.
James, how about you? How did it start for you?
Well, it started when I was really young. I'd say maybe 3 or 4 years old. Got a GS4 and some cars for Christmas. Ended up destroying it, and and it eventually just kind of progressed and ended up getting my dad and I made a layout, and it was I think it was a 4x8 at the time.
Okay.
And it was just something basic to run. And then got a little older and found the club down the street, basically, and just started at the club. So, yeah, it started with Christmas. It definitely started with the Christmas gift.
Yeah, definitely. We got a neat comment here kind of going about what we're talking about. This is coming in from Ron. He says, hello, Jim, from Point Pleasant, New Jersey. Love the show. I would like to request a shout out for my late uncle, Michael Romano, who introduced me to Athearn back in 1990s. Because of him, I am a fan. But you know what? There's been a lot of family members, I think, for all of us that maybe encouraged us in the hobby once we were into it or introduced us into the hobby. I mean, Tony, I know your dad was a big part of your life and bringing you into the hobby and keeping you occupied with new projects, right?
Oh, definitely. And Dad he custom painted for hobby shops in the St. Louis area and in Springfield, Illinois. So blue box stuff, I saw more blue box stuff being painted, Jinx blue and the Frisco, like red and white colors that for the local roads there, that there was always stacks of blue box stuff being worked on or, sent through his paint shop. And Athearn, the one thing I remember when you talk about starting, and James, you mentioned that as a Christmas gift, that is the thing I would hear at hobby shops a lot. And that Athearn is always that, okay, we got a train set for Christmas, but we're having a problem with it. It only wants to run in reverse, or this doesn't work, or this is that. I don't know how many times I would see the hobby shop owner say, okay, well, here, and he'd get like a blue box, whatever, F unit, Jeep, something. Take this home. This will run. This is, and there. So suddenly it is like, we got into this, but hey, this starter set or whatever we have is there some way to make this work better? Yeah, buy Athearn. And here they give her Athearn. So yeah, I think that for a lot of people in the hobby, Athearn was that, yeah, I did this or that or the other, and then found that and started building kits and doing that.
The train set is the entry level, and you get a taste of it, and boom, the Athearn's where you go.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, it's kind of the gateway. What about you, James? Who is your constant companion or encouragement in the hobby?
Well, I used to Janik, actually, that works with you guys, used to live down here, and he's a member of the club as well. So we would spend a lot of time down here at the club. I've known him for many years.
Nice.
My father got me into it when I was younger. Not so much. He's not really into it as much anymore. But definitely these days, I mean, just my club members, just hanging out with these guys. There's a whole handful of us. We got our little group here.
Nice.
Yeah. So we all have our stories to share, and everyone models something different, and everyone all their different personalities when we're running on the road. It gets fun. Yeah,
it does. It really does. Yeah, it's one of those things that I've always come back to, and I've had a lot of hobbies in my time, but model railroading's probably been the primary one for as long as I can remember. And the friends that we make in the model railroad community, they're lifetime. They'll come to our weddings, they'll come to our kids' graduations or whatever. And I mean, that's some of my closest friends or people I met in the club or in the rail fan community. So it's a great hobby that we've got. Here's a question from Tom, and it's for all of us. He wants to show of hands. Who among you three will weather your Rock Island GP18, not 19?
I don't think I'm going to raise my hand.
And it's one that would need it, though.
I know it would.
It really does.
I'm going to weather mine till it's John Deere green and faded yellow, and it's going to be New England Southern.
Oh, there you go.
I have to. I mean, I rail fanned that thing when I was a kid. I've told you about my beautiful 87 vet, right?
Yes.
Tony?
I think I've heard it.
Beautiful.
Tuesday.
Yeah, I had a vet. I was a Ford guy, but I had a vet, James, and it was metallic blue. It was beautiful. It had 4 doors and a hatchback. It was not a Corvette, but it did a lot of rail fanning.
4 doors on a Corvette.
Yeah, not quite.
Not quite. Although you've got a nice metallic blue sports car now.
I do. I do. I made up for it. Yeah,
yeah.
I got myself a Mustang, but I don't take that one rail fanning. I leave that up to the Jeep. James, do you do a lot of rail fanning out there?
I do. When I can. I have been working a lot the last couple months, but when I can, yeah, we'll get out to Cajon. I'm blessed to live right down the street from Fullerton, Fullerton Station.
Oh, wow.
And that is a hot spot that I'm sure you guys have seen on
Yeah.
YouTube and stuff throughout the years here. And I mean, it's 5 minutes away from the house, and they have a cafe there. You just go there, get a nice bite to eat, and got an afternoon full of trains.
Oh, cool.
And you're a real fan of vehicle of choice. What is it?
Prius.
A Prius.
It's a
As we
Prius. Toyota Prius.
That's a Prius, eh?
I can't beat the 50 miles per gallon. I'm telling you.
That's nice.
You know what? The funny thing is your car probably burns in 2 weeks what my Jeep burns in 15 minutes.
Well, Janik and I used to go out in a 500 Mercedes, and we'd just spend so much money on gas. I'm like, there has to be a better way to do this. So slowly but surely, I've turned my daily driver into an economic vehicle. I still got my Mercedes and everything, but my daily driver and real fan vehicle is a Prius now.
There you go. There you go. Practical, very practical vehicle, and more money for food and rail fanning. I can appreciate.
I learned too with the LA traffic around here, with having a big car with a big engine, it's kind of pointless.
It really is.
Not really anywhere to enjoy it. So that's the other thing too, is it's constant traffic.
Yeah.
Tony, your rail fan vehicle of choice?
A lot of times, I mean, obviously I got my red Lincoln Navigator, or no, Nautilus. Didn't buy the Navigator. Too big. I don't think I could park the thing. But the Nautilus, but I have my assistant editor has a GMC. I'm trying to think what it is. It's a SUV. And we go out in it a lot because he drives my Lincoln too, and we go places. So, but yeah, and I never take the Cadillac. I got my 95 red Eldorado, but the only gravel road it's ever been down in its life was to the east portal of the Moffat Tunnel with Lionel Strang. Other than that, it doesn't go anywhere that's not a nice paved road.
Now that's a road trip just waiting to be choreographed by John Hughes. You and Lionel rail fanning.
We had a great time. We went out to the Big Boy a few years ago, and we got pulled over in the Eldorado out there in western Kansas. I didn't think I was going that fast, but anyway.
As long as it didn't end up like John Candy's rental from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
No, the Eldorado's still in great shape.
Okay, good.
Well, yeah, it's fine. But no, that was a great trip. We saw Michelle Kempema at the Colorado Model Railroad.
Oh, very cool.
And did all that kind of stuff. So yeah, awesome.
Tony,
go out.
What's that? Go ahead, James.
The 95 Eldorado, Tony?
95 pearl red with the white cappuccino cream leather interior.
Those are amazing.
Sunroof. Oh, and it's for a 95. It has 30,000 original miles.
Nice.
Now it has that North Star engine that I know at some point is going to explode everywhere. But at this point, it's fine, and I only take it out on nice days. Put the dog in it. We go to Dairy Queen. Open the sunroof. It doesn't go anywhere.
God forbid you're ever going to do an oil pan gasket on one of those North Stars.
And I've looked at the thing where they'll do the head gasket or put the longer bolts in it so it doesn't blow the thing off the engine. But I just baby it. But yeah, the Lincoln's a daily driver.
Nice.
James, it looks like I have a question for you. This is coming in from Winona. And she says, James, it looks like some EMD demo units behind you. There doesn't seem to be a lot of, there seems to be a gray area with them. People either love them or they hate them. What are your thoughts on demo units? I love them because they are universal. They can go with just about anything.
Absolutely, Winona. I definitely agree with you about that. I love demo units. Yeah. This last release of the SD60s with the 3 demo units, I was all over it. I actually got one of my members to buy 3 of them as well. I believe those are his back there. He saw me running them, and he's like, I got to get some of those. I'm like, yes, you
sweet. Yeah.
So he picked them up. I even picked up some of those Roundhouse GP60s just to have the demo scheme. Yeah. That demo scheme to me is one of my favorites. I'm a GM. You guys are Ford guys.
Yep.
And, but this scheme, especially with the GM on the nose, that's really cool. I really
very cool.
So yeah, definitely a big fan of demo units. Like you said, you can run them with anything. You can basically just take your units, hook up to a set of cars at the club, and go. You don't really even have to have a train. They're nice.
Yeah, definitely. Nice. Tony, I got one here for you from John, and you just covered this, I think, an HO scale collector. He says, my father used to say, if Athearn ever makes N scale, then it has come of age. And I remember seeing Athearn Wild West model kits, like covered wagons. And no, I'm not talking about F units.
That's very true. That was in Railroad Model Craftsman. I do collector consist for editor Otto Vondrock over at Craftsman 4 times a year. And I think it was towards the end of last year, I did Athearn Goes West or Athearn in the Wild West. And yeah, late 50s, there's medicine wagon. They're like cowboy and horses. And I think one of the boxes maybe makes a claim that it's like 148th or O. They're not HO.
Right.
They are in what looks like a blue box kit. So they're odd to find if you ever find them at a train show. And there's about 4 or 5 of them. There's also like a circus, like the thing, the lions, like a wagon for.
Oh, right.
Yeah. But that was in Railroad Model Craftsman. And I'm trying to think the issue exactly on it. But that's always a surprise to folks that I'm trying to see if I have it handy here that don't realize Athearn did that. Here it is. Let's see. I'll bring it up here if I can on my thing, if we can.
And it's something that most people would never associate with Athearn today.
You'd never think of Athearn. It was in the December 2021 Railroad Model Craftsman. And I think it's there.
I remember you showing it before, Tony, on a Train Tuesday.
Yeah.
And aren't those, I mean, again, the first time I saw those, it's like, hey, what is that? And there they are. They're from the early 60s, and they were not Athearn originally. They're tooling that was picked up. That's, I think, the circus wagon exploded parts diagram. But see, look at the boxes for them. To look at them. And there's the stagecoach with the horse, and there I have it sitting. The 2 there at the bottom left are, regular blue box, but then to the right are these items for this line. And some of the stuff was never made. And again, it's inherited from a different product line. See the space rocket? There's like a tank. There's jets, there's a helicopter, and none of this was made, but it's also on the packaging for, it's like some magnificent masterpieces or miniature masterpieces. And if you see the circus one says globe models, which the F unit and the little shorty passenger cars come from. But if you're an Athearn collector, got to have one of those to throw on. And they come up on eBay from time to time. Dad and I found that set of those at a train show in Decatur or Springfield about 5 or 6 years ago, and I picked them up.
Nice.
That in Railroad Model Craftsman is 4 times a year collector consist where I talk about various old stuff, and that had a lot of feedback of what's this Athearn cowboys and stagecoach. And it's like, now it's not an April Fool's. They are real.
No. Ron's got a question we'll answer real quick, and it's a valid question. He says, how much of a difference are Athearn Ready to Roll to Genesis regarding locomotives? Can anyone tell me? I think all 3 of us can, but briefly, if you look at a Genesis locomotive, Ron, and look at go to athearn.com and look at our new announcements and look up the PDFs for the GP50s or the GP18s. And Genesis will be so detailed that it's right not only to the railroad but to the actual specific locomotive. So you on a railroad, you'll have 2 of the same locomotives. They might both be GP18s, but one might have a Leslie horn, or the other one might have a Nathan horn, even though they're the same railroad, same locomotive. And that's what Genesis does, is we have our developers spend hours upon hours of research looking at each locomotive and putting all those details on. And they're also representative of a locomotive of a certain date and time. Now, Ready to Roll is specific to the railroad itself. So they're not going to be as detailed as the Genesis, but they are going to have details that are specific to that railroad. So like Rock Island, when the SD40-2s were on the scene, the firecracker antennas, that was a dead giveaway of a Rock Island unit, or the bell being mounted on the long hood on the side. So those are the kind of things you'll see on Ready to Roll. Tony, you've done a bunch of reviews on both Genesis and Ready to Roll. Anything you can add to help Ron?
I think one of the things too, between the differences, I mean, performance-wise, because that is the one thing I tend to see more in emails. Does the Genesis stuff really run better? Am I getting more under the hood in a Genesis and Ready to Roll? And I would say not, the ready to roll performance wise and the Genesis, the drives are very close. So as far as running them together, because for some reason I get that where can I mix this or that, and yeah, the ready to roll performance wise, I think your drive motors and the electronics in them. In fact, a lot of the ready to roll now has even sound as options as well. Yeah, as you say, you kind of hit it on the head there that the model will be for Genesis exact down to road number, a certain span of years, whereas the ready to roll again is going to be, it'll be featured right. It's not going to be something like, oh, well, they didn't have dynamic brakes or this is wrong. They're basically going to be very correct and at a lower price level. And then the Athearn Roundhouse stuff again, as James mentioned, he bought those Jeep 60s too, that there's always a place for those as well. But yeah, and they run great too. Yeah, in fact, those now have some of the Roundhouse stuff you've been bringing out, like the Jeep 38-2s and those 50s, 60s with NCE silent decoders. So you've got at least VCC for them as well. So, and LEDs on the lights on those now too.
That's right. Yeah. I forgot too. We've got something else we can talk about briefly, but before I go to that, James, you've done some reviews on Ready to Roll and Genesis, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what about you? What have you found sticks out for you?
Well, it's getting harder and harder to determine these days the difference sometimes because RTR is really, really, really well done. But Genesis, what really sets it aside is definitely the road number, specific details. The interiors, cab interiors is a big thing. That's one of my favorite things of the Genesis line are the different cab interiors. And a lot of the lighting, some of the special lighting, especially with the 2.0s now, have the ground lights. The animated bearing caps is a really cool feature on the Genesis products now. So, yeah, there's a lot of different things that'll separate them.
About a year ago, Tony, we had talked about the old Athearn Blue Box F units. Remember we talked about that? It was about a Christmas episode. Yeah. And this month, we're going to be offering, under the Roundhouse name, the F units again. We're offering 2 F units with 2 different road numbers. And they are 21-pin DCC ready with first time ever LED lights. Introductory rate of only $116.99. And what's really cool is we're going to offer them with coaches and a 4-car set with the old Streamliner. So you can make up a business train. And one of the trains that we're going to do, of course, we're going to do something like the Burlington Northern business train. That was one of the classiest paint schemes ever, I think. But one that we've not done before is Pan Am. You guys ever seen the Pan Am business train?
Not until your announcement for the. I went looking, thinking that can't be real, and it's like, oh, they do have.
Yes, in fact, I've got a picture to share with everybody from one of our fans who helped us out. Let's see. This came in from Nathan.
Yeah.
And boy, if Nathan's out there, if he's listening, thanks for making me homesick, by the way. Yeah. This is from my part of the country. But yeah, Pan Am has a business train. And so now if you want something a little bit different on your layout, and I mean, who doesn't like F units? I mean, they're just kind of a cool locomotive. And we've kind of updated those old F units so that now they have LED lights and you can put a 21-pin decoder in them very easily. So yeah, if you want a nice, business train on your layout, there's a great way to get to it. The lower price than what we've offered in the past, and good stuff there.
And the matching cars, did you mention the matching cars on those? Like I've got a picture up here. The April, I don't think April's out yet. No, maybe April is out. April has the CP SD70 ACU on the cover. And in the news coverage, I've got the set of all the business stuff with pictures. So the Streamliner cars are coming in sets with what individual coaches you can add for like Burlington Northern, that whole group of executive stuff. So yeah, it'll be, and it's a good price thing. It's one of those you can add these sets, but there's Kansas City Southern, there's the CSX gray and blue, and then you did Amtrak Phase 1. I think there's UP, there's the KCS in the black before the full bell scheme.
Okay.
with matching passenger cars for all of those. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah, the KCS black are really nice.
that it is pretty classy. It is pretty classy. Harold writes in, he says, it's funny you say that. As I'm watching this broadcast, I'm fixing my older New Haven F7 unit this evening. So yeah, I still have mine over here.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
It's such a classic. I had this. This was sent to me, or this was given to me this week with the question of, okay, what is this? And it's like, well, I immediately identified it as it's the blue box F7.
Yep.
But then look, somebody turned it into an F3.
Brake.
Yeah, right.
Look they did the full chicken wire on the side here.
Very nice.
And then added separate grabs everywhere. But yeah, I had to basically take a double take. It wasn't like, yep, that's a blue box. But yeah, this was sent to me as like an HO collector. Hey, Athearn never made an F3, did they? I said, no, but somebody did. And they went to a lot of work.
Yeah, they did.
A neat model. Yeah,
they did. I mean, I think, how about you, James? You probably got an F unit somewhere in your collection, right?
Oh, I mean, to me, this is a very anticipated update of this classic model.
Yeah.
I have probably at least 20 to 30 of those blue box F7s at home.
How many rubber band drive ones do you want?
So seeing it evolve with the 21 pin connector and everything, it hits a certain spot. You know, we all had some of these F7s growing up and getting into the modeling. So it's cool. I definitely wanted the Amtrak ones, the UP ones, the KCS ones. So I'm definitely gonna pick up a couple sets of these.
Kind of a rite of passage if you think about it.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you're in this hobby, I think everybody here, and I'm seeing a lot of people in the comment section saying, "Yeah, I had a blue box F7. I still have it." You know. Yeah, dare I say it's the Ford Flathead of model railroad.
Yeah.
I just saw a really cool comment I'm going to put up here. This is from Christopher. He says, funny, I'm watching this while I'm on the Amtrak Pacific Surfliner, and I'm on one of the cars Athearn is making, 6953. That's cool.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Beautiful night for a ride along the coast.
Oh, would be.
Oh, yeah. I bet. And what's the temperature out there again, James?
I think we're in the mid 60s right now. I want to say I can't see the temperature gauge from here, but I want to say we're about 65, probably 66, maybe.
I'd be in the motorcycle right about now.
In here, in here.
Oh man,
I am 28 degrees right now. On our way down to 14 tonight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, during the Super Bowl the other night, they were saying in Cincinnati it was 9 degrees, and we were over here, it was 86 degrees, and everyone from Cincinnati watching probably wants to come out to LA now.
I would think so. I think all of my summer toys will stay in the summer location until it warms up. Tony, there's a question here for you. I'm going to see if I can find it again. This is from Eric. He says, briefly, Tony, you were talking about the box cabs. What did you have to say about them? He must have just caught the tail end of you showing those box cabs to us.
This was, and it's kind of the classic. It's Alco, Ingersoll Rand, and maybe somebody else. This is, I think, considered like the first diesel locomotive. It's from about 1910 or 11. This was done by Model Die Casting Roundhouse. First offered in 1972. So this model is 50 years old. And the prototype's way older than that. But it's going to be probably HO Collector third or fourth quarter this year as a cover story with just talk on the model and what it was. But yeah, it's a classic, and a milestone in diesel history because it's, I think, often referred to as the first. But yeah, so it'll get covered soon. That's what I have been working on. Is I have one they did Fantasy Roads because again, Central New Jersey is the only one. It's like this Ford is Fantasy. I have a yellow We Can Handle It Union Pacific, and it is in pieces as I'm to get pictures of the drive and how it was put together and everything.
Jim Fisk from St. Albans, Vermont. I've been there many times. Says it's only 6 degrees. Now, Tony, I heard you groan, but when I'm in New Hampshire, 6 degrees is perfect skidoo weather. The engine is just purring, and it's like riding a motorcycle with snow. Really, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, 6 degrees. I will do Sudoku next to my fireplace. Use Skidoo at 6 degrees all you want.
Let's see. I had some more comments and or questions about some of the stuff that we're talking about. There's a good one from Ron again about those box cabs, and this does sound familiar. Where'd he go? Our comments are coming in. Sometimes I miss them. There we go. Ron, he says, wasn't there a track cleaning edition offered by some company for that box cab? And that does seem familiar.
It actually is legitimate roundhouse. That
Oh,
roundhouse,
no kidding. Okay.
by about 1980, repurposed it and put like porches on the end with pads, and that'll be in the coverage and HO collector as well. But that's not a aftermarket or an add-on. Roundhouse sold it as a track cleaner. So
Okay.
I want to say I've seen one of those laying around the club here.
that seems to be the most popular.
Yeah.
If you run across one either on eBay or Shop, again,
we
that
go.
seemed to be the one that everybody had. Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah. That's the
There you go. Wow.
Yeah, ancient's been here for years.
Still working. It looks like it still gets used. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Polishing the rails. Yeah.
Has a decoder on it. Yeah, it's
Well, there you go.
DCC
Look
ready
at
to go.
That is something.
Yeah.
HO Scale Rail fan, you've asked this a couple of times, and I don't want to be rude. I want to put this up here for you. HO Scale Rail fan says, I know the last time I was on, I asked about the RBM and then SD50s. This is a bit of a follow-up request with the Norfolk Southern SD40Es. Also, will Athearn eventually make P40 DCs, both rebuilds and as delivered with built-in strobes? Boy, there's a lot of stuff going on there.
Yeah.
So a couple of things. Thanks for writing. Thanks for taking the time to write that in a couple of times. I'm glad I caught it. If you are out there and say, you know what, I would love to have such and such, or I'd like to see something that you already make in a railroad you haven't done yet, go to our homepage, athearn.com, and select the Contact Us, and go down there to the product suggestions email. Now, if you're not familiar with this, that product suggestion email goes straight to our developers. Now, they won't answer you, so don't think that we haven't that we've forgotten about you or anything of that nature, but we're collecting data. And a lot of the stuff that you've been seeing in the last few months is a direct correlation to those emails that you send us. So there's one thing I can tell you. And as far as those P40s, well, you know, what do you think, Tony? You think we should do something like that?
Well, I know that you got the P40s coming in VIA, and you're collecting pictures for that. That's go to Facebook and look for the email link on it. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see those come back. Speaking of input stuff, Jim, is the in-scale survey still going?
That is closed now, but yeah.
Okay. I was going to say, if not, let's tell people to go to that, and because I know I mentioned that a lot. I got about 3 or 4 guys on the magazine that are in scalers that were all excited and kept telling me, "Have you filled out the survey yet?"
Like, yeah, that's a good point to bring that up. We did send out a survey, I believe, last week on N-Scale. And, again, we hear a lot of guys. Now, myself personally, I'm an N-Scale modeler. Our lead developer, John, has got many years in N-Scale. And we know a lot of you guys have been saying, hey, what about us N-Scale guys? What? And see, somebody even said, I got to put it up here because it's perfect for the conversation. Yes, we are talking N-Scale right now. And we were thinking, you know what, if we were to do something new in N-Scale, both a locomotive and a freight car, what would people like to see? And so we put that out there, and we were really happy with the response. We got a lot of responses on that, a lot of good data. And who knows, we might see something new this coming year in N-Scale from Athearn.
That Pacific Surfliner, when the one guy mentioned he was on that train, I thought, oh, there's one I get. Is Athearn going to do that in N-Scale? When's Athearn going to do that in N-Scale? Athearn going to do that in N-Scale? So let me just ask, are you going to do that in N-Scale, Jim? I know you can't answer me, but I always get asked that about that new Pacific Surfliner series.
Well, honestly, yeah, I can tell you. So about what, was there something wrong?
No, we got it.
It was probably the internet again.
Yeah, probably the internet. Yeah, we'll wait.
James, how about you? I mean, in California, is it mainly HO? Do you see some N-Scale activity out there as well?
There's definitely N-scalers out here. There's a lot of in-track clubs. I believe there's a club down in the harbor area, San Pedro area. That's a big N-scale club as well. And a lot of guys have home layouts too. I know a couple people. I know a gentleman in Fullerton who has a nice N-scale layout in his home. Myself, I've been slowly getting into N-scale. Haven't built a layout yet, but I've been collecting some locomotives and rolling stock. Got an Athearn big boy, so I've been trying to get some 40-foot cars and stuff to make that look kind of cool, get a modern contest going. So yeah, I've been getting into it myself. Just I like the size of it and what you can do with the small amount of real estate. It's really nice. It's really nice.
It really is. And I mean,
I've been thinking about doing a little.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I've been thinking about getting a little N-scale layout myself together. Yeah.
It's one of those things where, Tony, Shane, your associate editor, big time N-scaler, known in the N-scale community. We've talked about this. N-scale's come so much further. When I first got into N-scale, not quite the dark ages, but pretty close, we were just happy that we could get the pilots filled in on the front of our locomotives, and when somebody announced, number boards with actual numbers on them, I mean, that was a big deal in N-scale. And now N-scale models across the board have just gotten so much better that my layout that is behind me, not this one, but another layout, is a switching layout. It's a prototype switching layout and only 6 feet. And like James said, you can do a lot of neat stuff in a small space for people that live in an apartment or a small home. It's a great way to take advantage of it. And if they're not into switching, they can join a club like a T-track club, an N-track club, a Fremo N club. There's a lot of advantages to it.
Yeah, I'm blown away with the amount of detail some of these N-scale locomotives have now.
Well, Camo Guy says to do it. Just do it. Don't think about it. Oh, that's great. Well, we're about ready to pull the pin on this episode. Any last thoughts before we go into the weekend? I always jokingly say Friday is the gateway to the weekend. What, James? What do you got on the for plans for the weekend?
Well, wake up early tomorrow, do a little bit of work, and then come down here and run trains all night.
That sounds like a great plan. How about you, Tony?
We did have snow, but it's been a little bit better. And there's a train show over in Lawrence, Kansas, which is about less than an hour west of me. And there's a train show up in Lincoln, Nebraska, which I know the Zuckers from Spring Creek will be there. And so I did message Shane today saying, well, there's no snow up in Lincoln. Do you feel like a road trip? So have a chance we may go do a train show tomorrow.
There you go. Well, that's pretty good. Well, speaking of N-scale, I've got some N-scale projects behind me I got to work on, and maybe do some more proto throttle work on the Genesis locomotives I've got here. So it looks like everybody's got some great plans for the weekend, model railroad wise. And you know what? Once again, everybody out there, thanks for coming on board with us. Everything that we talked about tonight, the GP18s, the GP50s, and those Maxi ones, don't forget about those. If you are into, how do you pronounce it, James? Is it Hapag-Lloyd?
That's how I pronounce it.
Okay, we're going to go with that.
Hapag-Lloyd.
Thank you. If you're into that, you might want to really seriously consider those Maxi 1. We're doing a special Maxi 1s with those containers. Let's just say you will be very happy by early summer. But everything else that we talked about, you've got till next Friday, the 25th, to place your pre-orders. And until next time, I think it's time to do some modeling. What do you guys think?
Sounds like a plan.
Absolutely.
James, Tony, thanks again for coming on board, spending some time in the workshop. It was good seeing the layout, James. Tony, always a pleasure talking with you. And everybody out there, thanks again for coming on board. And as I say every time, be happy, be healthy, be safe, do some modeling, and above all, high greens, everybody. Take care. Good night.
See you guys.